Happy November. Whatever you do this month, don't feed the trolls or the feds. Don't let them feed you. Don't take the bait. Don't play with fire, but burn whatever bridges you need to burn.
Howdy, folks. Your host, Double J, back here coming at you live from my studio/RV dining room, still located directly inside America. Welcome back, folks, to the interwebs. Thanks again for joining me here tonight to get a little GCD. I won't belabor these points much further. We've got a real barn burner here on deck for y'all tonight. Got a little bit full-blown Schizo Columbine style with Austin Wade Picard and the other JJ. But before we get into those matters, got a quick administrative notes here. Got Operation GCD Patreon. Well, it's Thursdays, but Thursday doubleheader here, double features of Satan double features on Saturdays, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Times. We're doing a little ode to actor Kevin Bacon in my GCD Make-A-Wish to help him find a new patsy for his 6 Degrees game. 6 Degrees of everyone's favorite psychological warfare operations officer, allegedly a Green Beret, but I'd like to see some documentation. That fat, doughy bastard passed any physical fitness exam. Muppet Mikey Aquino. So that'll be going on tomorrow night here on Operation GCD with an introduction here on YouTube's Rumble and the Twixters, followed by more look into an analysis of those analysts at Quantico, the behavior analysis or analyst unit, and their matters as we evolve into phase 3 and phase 4 of that panic. Folks of the interwebs, I'm panicked. We've been in a satanic panic for my entire life, over 45 years. I'm panicked because of that and because of Muppet Mikey's buddy, Ted.
There's thousands of Americans out there. By the way, I've been shot with a laser beam twice.
Watch out, folks. They got Ted twice. So that's tomorrow night, and then on Thursdays, disregard Sundays. Got a Sundays double feature, Operation GCD. So as you saw, it's National Security November. We got to see Doug Wilson of Moscow, Idaho, warning us not to feed them feds. I don't disagree, folks. We got Colby and his queers here, like Muppet Mikey Aquino, Phoenix program, Satanic Serial Killers Come Home. Muppet Mikey Aquino would be one of those queers. Matters of national security. We're going to go over these matters of national security, this whole concept on Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Times, followed by, boom, Final Destination Columbine, the strange volume of deaths revolving around the folks who witnessed aspects of the Columbine shooting and or their immediate family members. It's very interesting, folks, and it speaks to those, again, matters of national security. I'm not sure whose national security it is. It ain't mine, but so that'll be coming up here this weekend. Double features Saturday and Sunday. Without any further ado, Austin Wade Picard, welcome back to Operation GCD, sir. Thanks again for joining me here for your very first time.
Of course, buddy. Man, I appreciate you for having me on as always, man. I look forward to these conversations more than you realize, I think. And just as far as I always come away from these interactions, definitely seemingly learning far more about a subject matter that I thought I knew a substantial and significant amount of, as far as just my investigative research and commitment to content. But this is what I love about, having these opportunities is that we each approach these cases from a different angle and a sort of unique lens. And I think that in itself is something that is far more valuable than even we probably realize. You know what I mean? Just as far as the objective pursuit of truth itself. And man, I'm very happy to have met you, my friend.
Right back at you, sir. And real barn burner indeed inbound, because we also got the other JJ joining us here tonight. And I agree with you, sir. I leave every conversation we have there with new details. You're a man with a lot of details, and I respect that. The other JJ here, Jacob J, who's always out there trying to out JJ me, which, sir, I do respect it, sir, but I'll have none of it. Host of Rise of Liberty and joining us here on this barn burner indeed. So welcome back, sir, to Operation GCD for your very first time / probably fifth time, like 2 weeks, buddy. So I appreciate your time.
And producer of Already Dead, right?
Yes, sir. Producer of Already Dead. We have ourselves a little bit of necromancy, a little Mormon joke for you, Will, if you will. There, two Expos. Already Dead. We're Operation GCD Live. I feel like mashing those together. We got a little bit of necromancy going here, gents. So, so what else is new? Let me give you guys a chance to plug your shows there, Austin. And what do you got going on at the Underclass podcast besides your new epilogue on Columbine?
Man, I had no real understanding going in what I was getting myself into, if I'm being honest. But I'll shelf that for a moment, and just to basically address that. Pretty much, I'm looking forward to at least scheduling. I already have a few things scheduled as far as going on other shows, but I'm hoping to at least get a few guests scheduled for an underclass interview of some kind as well. So hopefully I can reach out to both of you, and if you're willing to come on at any point in the near future, and we can potentially discuss something, maybe something specific we could get into, and obviously branch out however we so please. But at the same time, right now, I would say just definitely go and check out the Columbine episode, and the most recent episodes of Already Dead, obviously, as well, because we've been having a good time just trying to kind of, I don't know, what is it, kind of be the almost like, I feel like, what is the term where you're kind of like an announcer or a broadcaster during a conduit throughout the apocalypse, let's say, or the dystopian ongoing tiptoe, which seems like a broad leap at this point. I mean, honestly, at this point, it seems like every other day we have extraordinary news that's kind of just taking the spotlight, right, and distracting everyone from the previous day's kind of scandals, and that in itself is almost a product of the memory hole that is so very much taken advantage of and leveraged against us. So that's,
dude, you ain't kidding, dude. If I may, sir, I greatly respect your all show. You all are kind of the canary in the coal mine here in Muppet World 2025 on Already Dead. I often tune in on Tuesday nights there, as I'm usually doing some production work and writing here from a podcast on here on Operation GCD, but I call on occasionally in chat as well, because I do enjoy your all's conversations. And yes, sir, for sure, absolutely. I highly recommend folks check that out. And Jacob J's not only the producer, I oftentimes catch him contributing quite a bit there.
Absolutely.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
He's a wealth of knowledge for sure. Go ahead, buddy.
Oh, didn't have a whole lot to say. It's just, I'm glad to be here. Honestly, I think this is going to be one hell of a conversation, because this is a topic that I've actually studied long before I started doing any of this. So
you too, huh?
Yes, sir.
There you go, trying out JJ me again, sir. While I respect it, I'm not going to have anything of it. I've been studying this case since 1999, sir. Where you been? Huh?
Damn.
Not quite that long. Not quite that long.
Not quite as old as me. Not quite as old as this Muppet here. No, it's interesting, because this thing is not only, you bring up a great point. It's not only changed our society, it was very impactful in a lot of different aspects and facets of our society, as far as normative changes of behaviors. Like, that was intentional as far as modeling goes. It actively changed the way law enforcement operated, which is how my first focus on it was. I was a teenage SWAT team leader. We all have a misspent youth there, other JJ, and I'm not gonna have you try to out JJ me there either. But I was a teenage SWAT team leader at the time, and in the Air Force, and then we came up with this thing called active shooter, because in the Columbine response, they didn't respond to shit. They went what was the one in Texas? They went not Valverde, Uvalde. Thank you. I used to live in Texas, dude. Yeah, so we kind of see a lot of the replication of the Uvalde incident. It's like a replication of the Columbine situation, because again, they didn't respond. This was the moment the protocol changed for law enforcement, and this term active shooter became
IARD was essentially the active shooting protocols that were implemented on the back of Columbine. But yeah, Uvalde, dude, it's the same. What you're saying is insane. As far as, if I remember correctly, that the authorities, the police, the local police on the ground were holding and detaining parents who were attempting to, obviously involve themselves and go into the school and try and stop the active shooting from going on, and let alone the extraordinary details of the high-speed chase after he.
There you go.
Isn't that the case where he shot his grandma or something?
And then wrecked the truck into the ditch, and there's questions how he even got into the building.
He's like a superhuman, dude.
It's the same blueprint of not tomfoolery, of Muppet foolery, if you will.
Right. And he was like 17 and somehow got access to like high grade weaponry. Exactly. It's like, where the fuck did he get the money for that? Because it wasn't just like, some piss poor AR-15 that you scrapped together,
The age-old playbook, my brother. Oh, don't even bring up
Uncle Ted, because we have to. Oh, go ahead, sir. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I'm saying don't even bring up Plattsburgh yet. That's huge.
Obviously going to tie into today's tale, is it not?
Absolutely, dude. Yeah. Yes. Talk about Plattsburgh mind control and behavioral modification, experimentation, very sophisticated methods of electromagnetic radio frequency systems that were implemented potentially upon Eric Harris, but we'll get into it.
Yeah, and what's often overlooked regarding the environment which Columbine, took place in, the circumstances and surroundings, that entire town is owned by the United States Air Force. And we're talking about the U.S. Air Force in Plattsburgh, the Plattsburgh Air Force Base. I mean, we're talking about the same entity just because it's across the U.S. from one another. I used to work for Air Force headquarters. This isn't humble brag hour. I'm just saying, relative to how I know this, I used to manage the budget for military police, so I understand the installations and where things go. And I've visited every Air Force base. I used to be able to go to every Air Force base. One point in time in my career, and folks knew me. Everyone knows your name type of deal. So I've been to Colorado a lot. I've never been stationed there, but they own that basically from Denver all the way down through Fort Carson is DOD. Fort Carson is the largest U.S. Army installation.
I think at the time of Columbine, it was out of 39,000 citizens and residents of Littleton. I believe it was over 10,000 were employed by Lockheed and Martin, which is just extraordinary as far as the statistical numbers of what that sort of alludes to in my mind. And it does feel like an entire town filled with just compromised spooks and very much assets that have been strategically positioned in within the, let's just say, the hierarchy within the local official leadership and even the coroners and detectives in the El Paso County and Jefferson County police departments. But I don't know. I get visions of kind of Operation Fast and Furious, and I see Stephen Paddock just creeping up into my mind, if only because I kind of view the ultimate consequential nature of a lot of these clandestine activities, such as really the way that I introduced the episode was essentially through the prism and the perspective of Bill Cooper's chapter 12 of Behold a Pale Horse, where I discuss essentially, where he claims that basically the secret government has been encouraging and encouraging the manufacture and importation of military grade firearms, I believe is how he put it, and he, essentially domestically within the U.S. for criminal use was the purpose, right? And this is how he puts it in chapter 12, and he says the intention behind these covert activities were to foster a feeling of insecurity within the subconscious minds of the American public, right? Which would ultimately lead to the vast majority of the general public essentially disarming themselves voluntarily through supporting this gun legislation and various it's the age-old playbook involving problem reaction solution and kind of.
Sir, if I may, you are spot on, sir. And if I can provide you an example of that relative to Columbine, the day after the shooting, April 21st, the day after Hitler's birthday, 1999, the Colorado State House canceled a vote. The state Senate canceled a vote on an open carry constitutional carry bill. They canceled it the day after the shooting. State legislators delayed action.
So there's one thing that Austin pointed out. I mean,
that's right in your face hole, sir. That's right in your face hole there, JJ.
Right. Yes, sir.
One thing that Austin pointed out in his episode is that one of the talking points is that Columbine was basically perpetrated because they were trying to enact gun control, which is part of it. But that's not like the main point, and I completely agree with that. But it is interesting because I actually did not know that about the constitutional carry debate. So there's all these things that just line up all the way around in a circle. That
Dude, right in your face hole.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the deep state or whatever the hell you want to call it needed this.
It's
Like,
the
no
layered
matter what.
achievements of the
Right.
clandestine opportunities. They
There you
always
go.
have these opportunistic layers to the agenda
Right.
that seem to just fully come to fruition in every single dystopian measure that you could imagine, right? And that's what just honestly it just really kind of every single aspect of Columbine reeks of that very same playbook, right? Just in terms of how they implement that dystopian reaction. And so I definitely agreed with the fact within the context of Bill Cooper, just to finish that thought, was essentially because I thought it was such an interesting idea that he claimed that Project Orion, right, was this conceptual kind of covert, let's just say, it seemed as if it was some sort of covert operation that would strategically, influence individual assets and experiment, let's say experimental subjects,
Right.
to basically become willing to open fire upon schoolyards, and that was really how he put it in that context. And I thought that in itself, as far as he was claiming the CIA specifically was inculcating this desire within these experimental subjects, and it was in the context of, kind of urging the anti-gun lobby, to become more inflamed and reactive in a way. But
if I may, sir, I believe Bill Cooper also points a lot of the bad actors operating through the UN and NATO and incorporating these programs into America. And if you take those, as we were talking about how the same framework from Columbine applies to Uvalde, even though they're decades apart, we can look a decade prior, 1989, and see that same framework here was Stockton schoolyard shooting in 1989.
Enlighten me, honestly, because I'm unaware of any of the real details in terms of that specific event.
I'm happy to do that, sir. Perhaps we can table that one for later discussion.
Okay.
I would like to focus more on Columbine, but I'm saying
Hey,
we're
here's an
looking at it.
opportunity. You should maybe come on my show and we could potentially, kind of spotlight that specific case if you're willing. Yeah, I think that would be interesting. Anyway,
after I
we'll
read Bill Cooper, dude, so I served with a fella. We were deployed together. He was an MP from a different base, but Air Force MP. We were deployed together though, and he was a Nation of Islam fella. Thought I was him and some of his associates accused me on the basketball court of being Hitler's Youth, to which I just laughed at. I oftentimes, blonde hair, blue eyed kind of business, So anyhow, we became friends after that because he's like, you just laughed at those dudes calling you Hitler's Youth. I'm like, yeah, I don't give a shit, dude. It's like, you don't bother me, buddy. And he's like, so we became friends. He's like, hey man, this book's very popular in the Nation of Islam. You should read this book. And that's how I first got introduced to Behold a Pale Horse. This would have been 2003 in Iraqistans, Middle East, at least there. And, so once I started understanding these matters, a decade later or so, by the time Sandy Hook rolled around, I'm applying that framework and looking for other things. Where did this, if the program that Bill Cooper's talking about is correct in his book, when did it start was the question I was asking.
Yeah, see, that's something that I have no real expertise in terms of understanding any sort of origin point and as far as Project Orion is concerned, but I did find it very interesting that obviously this was definitely alluded to in existence, and operationally speaking, it seems to fit perfectly. And that was really mostly what I was trying to suggest in terms of the introductory application of that portion of the chapter. But I do think that there's a reason that many of these, let's just say sub projects. I believe this perfectly fits into the sub.
No, they are sub projects, right? I mean, of some regard, right? That's what I'm saying. This is an overarching network that the reason why we can see patterns and similarities because they are sub projects from a larger network. That's my assessment.
Exactly. And even within the framework of MK Ultra itself, allegedly 149 sub projects that we know of, right, that are allegedly documented, and they themselves are extraordinarily kind of just the criminal implications of what they were pursuing at the time is just it's fascinating. And then you have, I think, the moments where most of the I would say most condemning operational kind of documentation was just memory hold and destroyed was leading up to and during the committee hearings, obviously during
the fake committee hearings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which were obviously entirely orchestrated and controlled in terms of the consequences of it, and the even the individuals who were obviously running and set up as leadership in terms of the committees themselves were clearly implicated within the scandals as well. And
sir, do you mean to tell me that Nelson Rockefeller did not run an objective commission?
Dude, I think Frank Church molested Claudia Mullen. That's what I think. I think that there's a legitimate.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I'm telling you, there's a real. So basically, what had happened was Frank Church. There was this sub project that was set up where they were using child prostitutes for sexual blackmail purposes, and this was a real kind of ethical conflict at the time within the CIA in the early 1950s, and this is when Alan Dulles kind of arranged his what is it, what's the term as far as the perfect assets, right there, like his A-team sort of thing, right, in terms of mind control A-team in a way is how he kind of orchestrated it. And a lot of this was through Tulane University and East Louisiana State Hospital, where, by the way, Lee Harvey Oswald tried to become employed during his time while he's working with Guy Bannister, right at the and offering up pamphlets from the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, right, and strategically
with Ted Cruz's dad, right, with Rafael Cruz.
I'm telling you, man, like this, it honestly, I cannot believe how much of this always seems to stem back to this JFK cabal, right?
You're spot on, sir.
Yeah,
you're spot on. So I had a
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, bud.
Well, I want to get to this comment, but to bookend your statement, I had a guest here a couple times, friend of the show, John Barber, legendary stand-up comedian, basically invented reality TV. He's the only man that put Jim Garrison, the legendary district attorney from New Orleans, who brought the only man to bring charges against anyone in the case of the conspiracy against JFK. He's the only one to put him on camera and let him tell a story. So he's got some unpublished stuff still to this day. John's still kicking it. He's a nonagenarian. I believe he's 94 almost now. Anyhow, he would speak to a lot of these same things. He and I would agree to those same points. This is a man who's lived through it all. He says the same thing you just said. All of these conspiracy roads lead back to the JFK situation, which I may add is a deeply Society of the Cincinnati matter. Lee Harvey Oswald,
right?
Jacqueline Kennedy's dad, JFK Jr. became a member via his maternal grandfather. So these things matter. JFK was a member as becoming president. J. Edgar Hoover was a member of the New York chapter, so on and so forth. Charlie
Every
Kirk,
time I come on, buddy, you inspire me to definitely prioritize the Society of the Cincinnati for an upcoming solo project, honestly, because I feel like it runs parallel with that of kind of the Pilgrims Society, and the Anglo-American establishment.
They invented the Pilgrim Society.
Yeah, see, that makes total sense to me.
Chauncey Depew, he's a hereditary member out of the New York chapter, U.S. Senator from New York. Chauncey Depew, he was the major figure in foundation of the Pilgrim Society. So the whole Charlie Kirk thing, before we get to this from Rosemary, I appreciate the comment. If I may, I'll be happy to join you, sir, anytime to talk those society schemers. I heard that in a song somewhere. The Charlie Kirk situation, Charlie Kirk's fifth great grandfather, Lieutenant Jesse Kirk, Virginia chapter, his wife, Her paternal grandfather was knighted by the King of Sweden, a hereditary member of the Society of Cincinnati. And the only person to get live footage of the event, one Adam Bartholomew, a third or fourth great grandson of a General Bartholomew, Society of Cincinnati.
So was that really Charlie Kirk at the Chick-fil-A the other day? I just thought it
might have been, right? You never know, right? You never know. So,
I'm like, he's either there or he's at Snake Island, right? Isn't that the concept that we're working with here as far as
right?
Or he never even existed.
He's in
well, here's the deal,
man.
But if I may add on that one, so I like to look for folks. That's used to be what I was good at in my PI days.
Mm-hmm.
In regards to old Charles Kirk, would you believe that his mother has a child from her first marriage, I believe 6 years older or 6.5 years older than Charlie, also named Charlie? Now, there is no public record of Charlie Kirk. I can find him in high school doing some rebounding, right? So let's just say for a minute, the dude who's dominating the boards in high school basketball was not 18 or 17. Let's say he was 23, right? Well, that makes a lot more sense.
With that gum line, the boards. You aren't dominating you're not dominating the boards with that gum line, brother.
Dude, look at that dome piece. You can box out with that dome piece alone, dude.
Yeah, it's 5.
So I'm actually entertaining the idea that Charlie Kirk was actually Charles Smith from his mother's first marriage, who has all the public records along with his known sister and parents, right? I played here on Operation GCD, sir, on Fridays. I like to play my favorite game, Who Is Your Daddy and What Does He Do? And I played that game with Charlie Kirk a few weeks ago, and that dome piece did not come from mom and dad. I don't know where that dome piece came from. I'm saying, so you take a lot of these factors. What my brain hole is telling me is that kid ain't from them parents. You got to be fucking kidding.
You know what, JJ? Have you ever considered the notion of Nazi breeding experiments of any kind?
Not only have I considered it, sir, I'm in full belief that it's going on. This is full-blown schizo style, sir, so I'm in full belief it's going on. So I like where your brain holes
so
are.
Thank you.
There's one thing I want to bring up. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I'd have to find him in my notes somewhere. But there was a doctor in Chicago in I think the 30s. So at the height of like bank robbing, right? Mm-hmm. And he got busted by the then established FBI going after the bank robbers. This doctor
started by Charles Bonaparte, Society of Cincinnati.
Right. This doctor got busted. He was a plastic surgeon. And what he was doing was he was changing people's faces.
Yep.
And this was back in the 30s. And he was really good at it. So, I mean, this is old technology. And this happens more often than people would probably like to admit.
Sir, are you telling me the film Face Off with John Travolta, my former sculptor, is indeed a documentary?
Probably, yes.
Holy
yes.
shit.
Yeah, it's a fictionalized documentary.
I don't doubt it, sir. Like cloning, people think cloning is a tough concept. I can break that down how it's not, how it's basically in vitro fertilization, and how that was really invented initially on frogs in 1902 by a German scientist, but I would argue conducted by DARPA and a defense contractor named Perkin-Elmer. They'd be the folks that would actually map out the DNA later, publicly announce, hey, look what we did. We mapped out the DNA sequences. Okay, fuck yourselves. So I would say they're the ones who invented in vitro and have been cloning folks for a very long time.
Right. Yeah, I believe on record, the very first human to be cloned is 1974. So
interesting. Well, in vitro was created in vitro was created in a Perkin-Elmer lab in Fairfield County, Connecticut, in my opinion, in around 1978 and 79.
There we go.
I wanted to briefly clarify before we get back into some of the context of Columbine, just as far as the Frank Church claim of Claudia Mullen. It seems as if, and as I had mentioned before, you have this sinister project that's being implemented within this context of like 1955 to 1957, right? And it seems as if they're using these children prostitutes or child prostitutes as human honeypots, and this is the ethical dilemma that they're facing at the time, and so you have Captain George White, Sidney Gottlieb, right, the dark black sorcerer of MK Ultra himself, right, who seems to have very much been behind. Oh God, I have to please don't let me forget. I need to bring up the finders in a moment, because obviously Sidney Gottlieb, and we clearly believe that Sidney Gottlieb potentially, after he retires in Virginia, wherever the founder of the finders is located as well, and we have this ridiculous a property that seems to be very nearby the finder's property, where it also
where he was raising goats.
Exactly. That goat gate potentially happened as far as the execution of Henrietta and Igor in context of the finder's case were provided by Sidney Gottlieb.
What's the Gottlieb Goat Factory, sir? It's the Gottlieb Goat
Factory. Dude, he sexually molested. He had sex with the goats. This is allegedly.
Well,
right?
I mean, you expect it. I mean, here's the deal, sir. Here's the deal. You're from Arkansas. Recently in Ohio. Years ago. Look, sir, I'm from West Virginia. My Appalachian family tree is an Appalachian pole. It lacks the requisite branches to be described as a tree. I'm utterly shocked, sir, that I don't have a sub 70 IQ, recessed chin line, and web feet. But in Ohio, a few years ago, they made it a law that you couldn't bang your animals anymore as a farmer. And I said, look, that's a long-standing tradition for any farmer here in Ohio. They got to be banging their animals. When folks were asking why, they passed a law about
what do you have goats for?
What do you have goats for if you're not going to bang them?
Right. That's so terrible. The level of bestiality. I mean, it as much as we like to just as far as try and make light of it, and just for our own sake, emotionally speaking, I think it applies very much so to that of the Dutroux affair. And I think every time I think of bestiality, I remember the X dossier and the level of degenerate abuse that those children were forced to endure. And I'm talking forcefully impregnated, and I'm not trying to be overly detailed, but this is something
crass. You're just calling it as you see them.
Exactly. And legitimately they used dogs to sexually abuse the children, and just imagine something taking place such as this, which is so sinister in nature, and then the effect it might have on the subconscious mind of a young child who's enduring this traumatic sort of brand of mind control, trauma-based mind control. That's Project Monarch all day long, and I don't view Dutroux as being obviously untouched. I think it's basically facilitated by that very agenda, and so I think that sinister project that they were kind of implementing at the time, it was involving Richard Helms, of course, himself, who was tasked with kind of destroying those documents. Those
little dick on dick action, tricky dick versus Dick Helms, little dick on dick.
Exactly. And the claim is that in 1972 he was ordered destroy the most condemning and damning files, and we will control the release to the public throughout the committee hearings. Yeah,
sir, are you telling me that we did not understand what happened? Like, we didn't get the truth in the committee hearings? I was led to believe that during the church committee hearings, when this is not my Vance, John Vance here, the CIA's Inspector General, who he's the one who blew the whistle on Operation Climax, that whole LSD hooker operation.
Right.
I was told we figured this out. I was told this was all resolved.
Right, exactly.
I was told to stop.
Yeah, stop. Exactly. This is.
I was told there was no longer Muppets at Langley.
Yeah. Good luck with that, brother. I think that we have reptilian lizards that overwhelm Langley at this point.
But I like your brain holds out on all these things, sir. And before we go any further, I'd like you to see if we can address this matter. This speaks to some of the strange deaths. Are you familiar with this one?
Dude, whenever you brought that comment up, I instantly pulled up my notes on the suspicious subway shop murder because I did cover it in my episode, and I thought it was extraordinarily important in terms of the aftermath of Columbine and the suspicious deaths that seem to occur.
Dude, it's one of the most suspicious deaths.
It's super wild, dude.
Yeah, man.
Super wild. We're looking like 20, like a couple baker's dozen suspicious deaths of this group. Two of the when I call it I'm doing a show on Sundays talking about some of these suspicious deaths, kind of tailing in what we're discussing tonight. Two of those folks, and this is just a little preview of not necessarily the deaths that are weird, but matters of national security surrounding the Columbine event, not the least of which the 4-star general of the Air Force that was seen present for duty at that day on scene.
Oh, God.
That's a different story
And-
altogether. But
And the UN members. I mean,
we
there-
got
there
NATO
were-
guys as well present
right?
for duty.
NATO,
Mhm.
UN, like what
We-
the fuck
we
are those
also
guys
see
doing
that-
there?
Dude, what the fuck is NATO doing there, right?
The
What the
FEMA
fuck is
comms
NATO
van,
doing?
right?
Right.
Yeah, the major general on the ground who's orchestrating the communications to all the local officials. How are you there so quickly, my friend? And
Dude.
beyond that, we haven't even
Well,
gotten into, and we won't.
You want to
yet.
get into that timeline, sir? You look at some of the documents. That shit popped off at 09:45.
Absolutely.
later.
Right
I think well over 4 hours.
after they did a dry run like the week before.
Yeah.
right. And,
So-
and before the officials even enter the building, and there's so much controversy. Danny Rohrbaugh, his father, I believe his name is Brian. He later kind of came together with a group of I'll address the subway shop murders for sure.
No, for sure. No, go ahead. I got one more point here on the weirdness and national security matters. But go ahead, sir.
Awesome.
Before we go.
I just I briefly wanted to just mention the fact that the mother of one of the Columbine survivors, or I mean Columbine victims, I should say, she later on, let me pull it up real quickly because it's actually incredible.
She murdered herself with a 38 in a gun shop.
In
right?
a pawn
Camera.
shop, dude. Yeah, yeah.
That's Carla Holtalter. I can't
Holtalter.
pronounce her.
Yeah.
You do it. I can't do it. You name it.
Carla Holtalter.
You name it. I can't name it. You name it.
Holtalter, I believe is
go.
the name.
She
Yeah.
was the one who actually said that she witnessed the shooter and said it in her statement written down to FBI and local law enforcement. It was, sir, I am not the vice president. And she said the shooter was not Klebold or Harris. So,
Dylan or Eric.
a lot of those
exactly.
statements.
You had
the
over
famous
100
third
witnesses.
suspect.
Exactly. And by the way, I have a name.
I think you can
I
count
have
5
multiple-
total by the statements. The 5 different suspects identified
Maybe
by the statements.
potentially 8. I'm not
Potentially
even
8.
playing.
5 to 8.
We're
We'll call
over
it
40
7.
people. Over 40 people witnessed potentially 8 shooters. And so we're talking two teams of shooters that were essentially stationed strategically, to conduct this operation, this green light
Now,
go modern
allegedly, some of
gladiator.
them were wearing military fatigues. So,
100%, buddy. And
like,
and
what the fuck?
I'm telling you, you have over 40 witnesses who are claiming they thought the shooting was over, and that they were being approached by individuals who were potentially going to rescue them. But then they realized as they approached and got closer that no, whatsoever, they
Dude,
were
that
not
was-
interested in rescuing them, and they were actually interested in maximizing casualties.
Yeah,
and
and that was going on at
essentially-
3:30, sir. You tell me
Yes,
how that
sir.
happens if Dylan and Eric die at 12:30.
Exactly, and that's the problem with the entire timeline that the official narrative likes to promote, and that in itself completely fell apart post. As far as just the Columbine files themselves, the Columbine tapes, every aspect of it was entirely countered by the parents of some of the victims, who again came together and sued the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department and many of the local officials and law enforcement who were involved in the reaction and the response. And not only due to the fact that they refused to enter the building until 3 to 4 hours after the shooting had obviously, allegedly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's all that we can find on this, is every single aspect of it seems to be
Well, sir,
just
this is
kind
a matter of
perfectly
national security.
contrived.
You
Yeah,
get to
exactly.
know, I don't get to know. Other JJ doesn't get it. None of us get. None of the folks at the interwebs get to know. That's what I mean.
Right.
Free
Right.
speech in America was eradicated in 1947 via the National Security Act of 1947, where
Oh,
3
man.
folks, including folks like Rockefeller and Kissinger, could just stamp things national security over the years. Dick Helms, Bill Colby, that fuck, and all of his queers. They can stamp it national security. No one knows, right? No one knows. And as a result of that, we don't know the details and actual facts around Columbine. What we do know is 2 of the Columbine survivors would later attend Virginia Tech University on the day of the infamous Virginia Tech shooting by Ho Chi Minh, that South Korean fellow, whatever his name. The female, she left her keys in the off-campus apartment of her and her boyfriend, so they had to go back and get her keys. Otherwise, they were supposed to be in the very same class that Ho Chi Minh allegedly assaulted. whatever.
Yeah, this episode encouraged me to definitely cover the Virginia Tech shooting at some point in the
Are
future.
you kidding me, dude? How does that happen, dude? How do two people
Hey, let's
survive?
talk about
Right.
Mark Taylor and his mother, who were committed after the fact, and he was a Columbine victim, to discussing pharmaceutical SSRIs being a vital factor within the context of these mass shootings playing out and these modern Manchurians being kind of operationally greenlit. And he's chemically lobotomized, and inevitably after some sort of emotional breakdown in a bookstore, allegedly. But there's no
Emotional
real
breakdown.
yeah, well, no details whatsoever, providing
was
any
gang
sort of
stalked.
credible reinforcement for that line and narrative, which
Well,
was
we have
very
numerous
convenient.
tests, sir, just that fit those same qualifications and framework that you just pointed out. And speaking of this pattern of behavior that we're pointing out from Uvalde to that Stockton shooting, and the same repeating actions and behaviors and these apparent protocols, right, of somebody, we see the same thing popping off around Kirk. So that in the wake of the Kirk alleged murder and death, we see these McCoy fuckers. I'm a McCoy. I don't know my exact relations. Charles Manson and I are McCoys from Pikeville, Kentucky, but you know the Hatfields
Really?
McCoys. Oh yeah,
That's
yeah. I'm a Hatfield and McCoy, sir. I mean the Hatfields are Vances, and I'm a McCoy. My
Man, you got
grandfolks
that genealogy, JJ.
Oh, dude, my
I don't
grandfolks Vance. You know, when I say I was, speaking of that Appalachian Pole, sir, my grandfolks Vance, their parents are both first cousins. So we got a lot of, and Devil Zane's Hatfield is my second great grandfather Vance's first cousin. And a couple
Wow.
times over.
That's amazing. Honestly, that is really cool. I should yeah, as much as I would like to know my genealogy, I very much am I'm just concerned as to what avenue I should kind of follow to potentially provide myself with the details, because I don't think I trust any of the
Mormon church.
You let me
dude.
know, sir. You let me know. This is my specialties here. I find folks in genealogies as well. So you let me know. I'd be happy to help.
I actually didn't give a shit about genealogy until I started coming on this show. And
There you
boy,
go.
who is your
Where's
daddy
your
and
bud?
what do they do?
Oh, hey,
Not only
bud.
that, I was about to do that to you too. You got me. Are you my brain hole, other JJ? I swear you got me. You got me. But no, not only who's your daddy, what does he do? We see the folks who started America run a modern day knighthood. So the who is your daddy is a very important question in that regard.
Right.
Also, I like to say that if you don't, someone who doesn't know their family tree, their roots, their heritage is akin to a tree not having any roots. Therefore, that tree would then die. And I suspect that is a big part of our culture. We have been disconnected from our heritage.
100%.
Oh, well, I'm definitely included in that group, I would say, because I have no real understanding of my heritage or genealogy. But I will say that it did come up recently in the context of Dick Cheney. And that is why I think you hit me up in terms of the Salem witch trials.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
because we'd be happy to get into those. I do a series here, Occult Genealogy of America, and that's where I've kind of stumbled. So when I was doing these things, tracking society, families over time, I'm like, why is everyone from the north end of the society? Everyone's from the Salem witch. I'm not even making this up. Joseph Smith, Bill Colby. I mean, I can go on here, dude. We happy to get into it, but back to those McCoy fuckers. So McCoy, the chief of staff and the communications guy for Charlie Kirk, and their dad, who's this evangelical pastor. The evangelical situation around Columbine reeks of the process to me, sir, let alone the dog fucking and goat fucking that we were talking about before. That always reeks of the process to me. But these McCoy fuckers are taking over Turning Point USA. Literally, they've been taking it over. So the pastor McCoy, the father of the two boys, his father, who was his daddy, sir, and what did he do, right? Mm-hmm. His daddy was the captain, the deputy of psychological warfare for the U.S. Navy. And then he was an Iran-Contra money launderer for Bill Colby. He actually evaporated one of the largest Southern California banks in San Diego in 1989, right after he took a $60 million kind of golden parachute package, if you will.
I think it's so cute that people buy the official
narrative.
Yeah, you're back. You're back. Yeah, you're back.
Weird. I think I said Bill Colby too much. I'm surprised. I haven't looked at the chat. I'm surprised our channel's not here.
You're walking that fine line, my friend.
Oh wait, I see him in the chat.
Oh well, I'll get to him in a second. That damn Muppet. So I don't want to belabor my point here on that. I don't appreciate you guys entertaining my verbose statements here, but we see that same pattern again around Columbine. So there's an evangelical preacher who's got U.S. Navy intel connections. So it's very strange to me, right? It's very strange. We see again, it's this. So what I often describe is, as I'm pointing out all these Colby's, Queers connections, the money launderers, Jeffrey Epstein, all of his friends, Epstein gets away with not being known as a money launderer.
Yeah,
Right.
which makes no sense whatsoever because he's connected to Operation Gladio, subletting his apartment in upstate New York, and to legitimate Gladio operatives, and we're talking the Iranian connection in terms of Iran Contra, and I think that
Oh,
again just it comes up so very often as far
you
as
mean
many
like
of
the
these.
two Columbine students, sir? If I may, the two Columbine students that were caught in Iran, hiking that Iran.
Hey,
Right.
man. Hey. Don't I think Columbine's still very much relevant to this day, and that includes a scandal I just witnessed in terms of this very year in January or February, actually.
What's that?
It was exposed that a teacher was caught grooming a student and legitimately groomed a 17-year-old. Well, not 17 at the time of the grooming, but process, but obviously, ultimately, as a 17-year-old, the student decided that she would declare herself as homeless and file federal paperwork for that purpose, and in an effort to apparently join this former teacher from Columbine with members of the administrative staff at the high school itself, actually facilitating this and keeping the parents in the
Yup.
dark and withholding all of the information.
What
And
the
and
fuck?
yes, and then the student then was apparently the plan was to join the former teacher at the new residence in the state of California, where there's a legal loophole where a 17-year-old who's declared homeless can
I
choose to
remember that
reside with
story.
anyone they so choose without parental
Right.
consent. And so that was the formation of the kind of modern framework of how you groom a child throughout that process and successfully kind of deter any real legal consequence. And I think it just the fact that Columbine itself was the high school that was directly implicated in being involved, and obviously the teacher and the administrative staff and everything else and the student. To me, it screams that this high school itself is potentially some sort of operational hub of some kind that they can kind of leverage anytime they so choose and,
Well,
and
of course
exercise.
it
kidding,
would be,
sir.
because I mean the whole town is a spook town, right?
Yup.
Exactly.
And
Yup.
so that the school's going to be it's a spook
You would
school.
imagine.
I like where
Exactly.
your brain hole's at, sir. So that's what I was saying about the modeling and changes we've seen that come out of this. There's a lot of behavioral modeling that going on, not only the reaction to it, but the
Right.
and proceeding to it. So before I forget, when we're about to play my favorite game, Who's Your Daddy and What Does He Do? And confusing things about Epstein and relative to that game tonight. But those McCoy boys, would you believe Pastor McCoy that he's connected to the Vegas shooting and the Thousand Oaks Country Club shooting, or
No.
excuse me, nightclub shooting, where the Vegas. So talk about surviving multiple shootings from those Columbine kids at Virginia Tech.
Hold on. You have to provide me with details as just at least so I can follow this up as soon as
Well,
possible in terms of
I have
Vegas.
another show coming up in the future. I'm doing Final Destination Columbine. I'm going to do Final Destination Vegas shooting because we see other victims we see survivors from the Vegas shooting, which I got a lot of statements about. Surviving the
Right.
Garlic Festival shooting in California, the Thousand Oaks Country Club shooting. Pastor McCoy, the son of the captain in charge of U.S. Navy psychological warfare, confirmed money launderer of Bill Colby's queers, is connected to all of that. And this is the man that's taking over Turning Point USA right now. And again, probably some relations to me, but I couldn't tell you what it is right now. I'm more closely related to that Mormon McCoy, sir. This guy knows what I'm talking about.
Okay.
The guy that did he's part of another Colby queer program. He's a Phoenix program helicopter pilot from Viet fucking Nam, and he came back here and was involved in what is known as the DB Cooper situations.
Oh my God.
Cooper copycat. But here's the deal:
Now,
he was in Vegas at the time DB Cooper pulled off his shit like a week prior to McCoy's shit. So when we're talking about changing laws, we saw a lot of airline laws get changed as a result of that.
right.
We see a lot of Colby's queers connected to it, not the least of which a Mormon McCoy fella from North Carolina.
There was a lot of banking regulation that changed because of DB Cooper too, which is
Absolutely.
incredibly strange. And while that happens to be the subject,
strange or normal, we see Colby's queers
Right.
surrounding Gladio activities.
Strange.
You know what I mean?
but
Strange.
I'm pretty sure if you look at him, I'm pretty sure DB Cooper was Joe Biden.
Whoa.
What? Holy shit.
Look at the pictures.
That's a
pictures.
new one for
They
me,
look-
sir, and I'm going to look at that for sure.
Right.
But in the meantime, let's answer this question.
You tell me, who is your daddy and what does he do?
Who is that man's daddy and what does he do? Because that ain't his brother. That's supposedly Mark Epstein, his brother. They look nothing alike. Old Hefe here looks nothing like a Jewish man. At 5'10", 190 pounds he's a pretty jacked dude, quite honestly. He did yoga 3 hours a day, according to a lot of his victim statements. He's a pretty yoked dude. I think he actually was a Special Forces operative in that Navy SEALs uniform on the Queen's property for Andrew's daughter's birthday. I think that's probably a real thing. But who is his daddy and what does he do? As I don't think his name's Jeffrey Epstein. He don't look like a Jewish man.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I don't see a lot of 5'9", yoked, 190-pound Jewish men. Do you, sir?
No, not.
Doesn't have the hairline, doesn't have the framework. You know what I mean? I'll let my brain hole, my eye holes do the working for me on this one. I'm gonna say not a fucking chance.
Right, and when you consider the Anya Wick allegations that were made as far as Epstein's niece and how they kind of used the Jewish concept as kind of like a cover, right? Very much
absolutely,
so.
Sir. That's what so that's what this news article from Bloomberg's about, sir. He had a passport under a WASP name, like David Miller or something like that. I forget. It's been memory hold. I can't even find the fucking reference to the actual name now. But we can find the articles talking about it because he argued it in court. And I'll have to go back to the court filings now. They might have actually listed the name there. Anyhow, it's a WASP name, White Anglo-Saxon Protestant, right? Mm-hmm. And he looks like a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant by the looks of the man. And I think that was his actual name on that passport. And we get fucking, they're running cover. Oh, Epstein says suspicious passport was to fend off hijackers. Go fuck them.
Yeah. What do you think the Zorro property breeding experiments were truly for? And I don't think that was only for some sort of modern transhumanism and eugenics elements that obviously factored in. I think it was also some sort of breeding experiment and where they could utilize the children and the kind of undocumented children at that for many different purposes under the umbrella of the enterprise, right? That sadistic and sinister enterprise. And I think that always includes organ harvesting, various elements that are never sort of kind of, I don't know, just even put into proper context within the concept of many of these different scandals that take place. And I think it's mostly due to the fact that it's kept, I think it's very much meant and strategically meant to be kept in the dark, right? They would like us to not actually be able to acknowledge this as the operational playbook. And when you view what she claimed was the actual framework of the enterprise of Epstein, it was Anya Beth Epstein is who she claimed she was, the niece of Jeffrey Epstein. And she says that essentially her family was practicing. They were members of an ancient cult, and essentially they were a part of the cult of Baal. And this was what they were actually doing was masquerading as Jewish, right? And this cult of Baal that they actually belonged to was in order to raise these undocumented children, which involved incest and child trafficking and things of that nature, which always seem to play a role in this and kind of a strategic operational playbook. And so you have the chemical process of administering, induced amnesia on the subjects as well. And that's what she claimed she spent a lifetime trying to recover from. And that fits so very much of what I've witnessed in terms of many of these kind of monarch victims. And I like to reference Kathy O'Brien as much as I get pushback occasionally, only due to the fact that I could clearly see how her kind of path back to just stabilizing herself after her trauma obviously came in the form of connecting herself to a psychiatrist that seems to have very strange connections. So I understand.
I don't think she's ever left being a victim, sir.
What's that?
I agree.
I think she's still being victimized to this day.
Yeah, see, that's what it looks like. As if it's almost the Virginia Guffrey played, or Jeffrey
Virginia.
Right?
You mean to tell me, sir, Virginia Giuffre, whose uncle was a very powerful member from a very powerful family of the Cabell family, a very CIA family, by the way, of the Society of the Cincinnati, who's likely the hereditary member from a Colonel Cabell, former powerful governor of Virginia. Her mother is a Cabell. That's her mother's brother. So you mean to tell me Virginia Giuffre never left being a victim? I would agree with you on that, sir.
No, I don't think she did, and I think that's a
mean,
part of what happens in terms of this kind of strategic outcome. Is it's always, and I think Lee Harvey Oswald applies, and so does Carrie Thornley, who claims to have been the kind of distant relative of Lee Harvey Oswald in some sort of Nazi breeding experiment himself, and that makes a lot of sense if you look at. I'll pull up the actual picture of Lee Harvey Oswald's alleged dad. True father.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're saying Bill Casey was right.
Yeah. I actually do, and believe that, and I think that some of these individuals that we're forced to unfortunately rely upon in terms of some of these whistleblowing claims, it begins to. It's frustrating because we can never have a clear picture, because obviously you have to somewhat be an initiate in order to have a window into how this truly operates. And so that in itself is almost kind of like difficult to view as a credible source in any real way. And you always have to remain skeptical. And that's almost a part of the playbook as well, because it seems like they want to keep our heads on a swivel to where it's such a muddy kind of environment for us to attempt to perfectly come to terms with a conclusion of any kind that really does apply, and that seemingly is working very well, right? I will say that
is, dude.
I'm not trying to black pill anyone. I think it's important to recognize and acknowledge the fact that this is extraordinarily effective. Right. And in no way has it waned in its effectiveness. And I think that if we're acting as if just because we have kind of manufactured the ability to sift through some of the nonsense and the misdirection that they purposefully kind of leverage against us, doesn't mean necessarily that the general public has been able to achieve something such as that psychologically. And in no way am I saying that we have no hope, but at the same point, we must recognize the formidable threat we face as a population and as a just global population, right? Because this is a global agenda. And as much 100%. As I don't like to view anything collectively, due to the fact that obviously I'm very much an individualist at heart and nature, and I think that is the crux of what kind of almost the crux of our problems, because we can't seem to realize that it's not our role to control our neighbor and things of that nature. That this egoic framework and perspective and approach, and we all view this current paradigm. And too many of us, I will say, I hope I personally don't fall into this category, but we all seem to be very much on our high horse, as if we understand how this functions and how this works. And
how dare you, sir? How dare you come up here and make accusations of anyone being on a high horse?
Hey, man, I'm trying to keep myself from that exact outcome, because I think what
you're saying makes a lot of sense, sir. And I like where you're bringing.
Do you mind if I go to the bathroom real quick, buddy?
No, just knock it out, dude.
I'll be right back.
Knock it out, buddy.
Appreciate you.
I think, and I think you can fill in your thoughts and ideas from your brain hole, sir. But I think what I'm, translating from a lot of what Austin's saying there is, a lot of these things happen because we don't know anything about them. These things that happen, when there's any sort of light to these matters, seemingly they at least have to alter operations. And when we can start identifying all these patterns and framework now with the availability of information on the interwebs, then I think times have changed a bit for these kind of Muppets.
Well, and I mean that's why they want to censor the internet, right? And that's why
dude.
That's why they want to corral all of us into these social media.
Burning myself. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Easy there.
Yeah, watch out.
Yeah, that's why they want to corral us all onto social media. That's why they want to create dead internet theory, because when the internet is actually free and open, they can't control that, which is actually what's good for us. But
they can't manipulate the algorithms to build this kind of false framework for folks to live in, right?
Right, exactly. Build the matrix, basically. And the thing is like, we don't know these things because when people try to tell other people about these things, we get called conspiracy theorists, right? Which is like one of the most effective pieces of propaganda or psyop I've ever seen. You know,
You ain't kidding, sir. You ain't kidding.
and then
speaking of propaganda, sir, if you may hold on 1 second, please.
of course,
Oh no, go ahead. What were you saying? I cut you off. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that you know, people like to say that like life is super random, and no, the hell it's not. It's incredibly planned. It looks random because there's so much going on at one time, but all you have to do is play with the Galton board. Is as soon as you play with the Galton board, you see exactly how like everything is lined up into the bell curve. So it appears random.
Albert Gallatin? What's a Gallatin board?
A Galton board. It basically just shows how randomness leads to a predicted outcome. So it's just a math toy, a nerd toy.
There you
But
go, sir. You're LJJ me here. Good for you, sir. I appreciate it. Gallatin board?
a Galton, Galton, or
Oh, I thought you were
I
saying
don't know.
Gallatin, like Galatin, like Albert Gallatin, former Secretary of State, member of the Founding Father and Society of Cincinnati member.
No, Galton. I can't remember his first name. He was a mathematician though. But yeah, basically life is not random, and for things to be that random would like basically rip a hole in space and time. Like
I don't disagree, sir.
Things are not random. Things are
I
planned.
don't disagree. And every time I mention Bill Colby's Queers, the CIA, and those fucking Muppets at Langley, I get RR channel. My favorite CIA AI bot, Bill Colby Ball Washer,
Love-
popping in here saying some wild shit. And today, sadly, is one of those days he says that the CIA AI bot says things that I agree with. But nonetheless, I'm still going to play his
Hey, buddy.
his theme song here.
Oh my God.
RR channel, good to see your dedication to being wrong and being proven wrong time and time again. It's never ceased to amaze me. Tell those Muppets at Langley I said go fuck yourselves.
Nice.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just think that it's interesting. We're seeing another kind of wave of crackdowns on social media and definitely on YouTube as well. And
Oh yeah.
and that seems to be clearly the very same pattern of what we've kind of been echoing and spotlighting for quite some time, especially on Already Dead, is just the idea of utilizing and exploiting anti-Semitism as a justification for the crackdown on freedom of speech and any sort of real objective critical thought whatsoever, especially in terms of criticizing Israel. And so we have the criticism of Israel as the new justification, which is very much the exact same line of thinking as the Biden administration cracking down on any sort of dissident in terms of COVID. And that is clearly what everyone seems to be referencing and acknowledging if they have a working mind that's, a functional and
I feel like
critically
the
thinking through.
cough epidemic, sir, of 2020, helped everyone. It like weaponized everyone getting up each other's asshole, getting into each other's assholes, telling folks you can't do that.
You're totally right, man. And again, controlling your neighbor, right? Choose. It's empowering the inner totalitarian within all of us, apparently, because it seems as if the vast majority of society fall within this framework of I have the solution, right? No matter how uneducated and indoctrinated you may be, and honestly, the more indoctrinated you are, the more you believe you have a solution. Right. And that's what seems to be taking place. And in every way, I'm frustrated just to witnessing this ridiculous artificial blue wave and seeing people kind of react in this way. And now I will say, I thought Thomas Massey's tweet was hilarious, no matter how much I believe, D. Molay and what's actually happening with this strange 30-year age, younger than honeypot type of situation. Yeah. That's
he's an interesting character, is he not? I mean, he's
MIT, my friend, the Demolay, all of this factors into my kind of conceptual outline of who this individual political puppet truly is. And I think
let me add a little piece of your brain hole in that equation, that puzzle. Thomas Massey's third great grandfather, Captain Joseph Massey, Virginia chapter, Society of Cincinnati. Pennsylvania chapter, Society.
Okay, well, thank you, JJ, because this just fully reinforced every terrible idea I had in terms of this skepticism in regard to Thomas Massey specifically, as some sort of political manufactured construct and personality to seemingly provide us with some sort of fictional solution, and this is where I believe that ideologically they present us with some sort of viable candidate. No matter where you land on the ideological spectrum politically, you will be
offered from Fort Walton Beach, a very shady strip club in Fort Walton Beach, going to tell us everything about UFOs. And a Polina Luna. Go ahead, sir.
Totally.
Exactly. A former stripper, dude.
And here in America, sir, you could be a stripper in a very, I've been there, a very seedy strip club outside Eglin Air Force Base in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And then just a couple years later, you can be a congresswoman, telling everybody about, spreading the good news about UFOs. I'm going to solve it.
Hey,
right.
Handling Epstein transparency of all things, which is one of my favorite things you could ever imagine. Right. And you know what's funny, though, is that I sent... because I did think that Thomas Massey's tweet in regard to just like this wave of Republican defeat in the midterms, and I found it interesting and kind of humorous, just because he says, to avoid a repeat of last night's shellacking in the 2026 midterms, Republicans should quit covering for pedophiles, put America before Israel, put farmers before corporations, quit funding wars abroad, quit attacking independent voices. What a concept. And what is it? I mean, I'm meant to cover this recently on Already Dead, but I always prep too much, so I have too many things that I can't quite work into the conversation. But it was the Argentinian beef importing, right? The importation that Trump has decided to undermine any of the American domestic farmers in preference and kind of obviously siding with the major corporations involved with the industry itself, and that in no way is this sort of American dream template that the ridiculous carrot on the stick is intended to have members of that ideological base subscribe to. You know,
I was told that Trump was a man of the working people, that he really understood blue collar. So I find this hard to believe.
Tell me, sir. You can tell me.
Oh my God!
No, I like where Jen's brain holes at. If I can kind of bring us back in Columbine style here, we got some comments. I want to follow up on some good comments. One, I didn't know the Columbine flower is connected to Venus.
Right? Oh my God! You know what that makes me think of? Hold on, let me pull this, because there was I had an individual listener. I'm not sure if they're a patron or not, but they're pretty cool people. And basically they hit me up and they tipped me off to the notion that, it reinforced the idea that obviously in the concept that James Holmes and Columbine itself, and that specific area, which definitely I covered very detailed as far as the Littleton intelligence footprint and the kind of
unintelligent.
Yeah, exactly, right. But still, the modern Gladio strategy of tension is alive and well in Littleton, Colorado. Let's say that, right?
You're right, sir. And we can track a few patterns on regards to how these things, if we try to backtrack where Harris and Klebold were involved in. You've mentioned Blackjack Pizza. That's very intriguing. Absolutely. The industrial rock Nazi Satanist movement. That's interesting, considering Michael Moynihan and Boyd Rice, the profound Nazi Satanists living in Jefferson County at the time. The man who invented industrial rock.
JJ. Wade Michael. You're frying me, man. Like this is the problem is because you have Wade Michael Page as a major Gladio operational asset within the context of Columbine, and he obviously
bring him up.
He obviously commits the 2012 Sikh temple shooting in Wisconsin after being legitimately, in my mind, credibly identified potentially as a perpetrator involved with James Holmes, leading up to the 2012 Aurora, Colorado Cinema 16 shooting. And
yes, sir. And may I ask you a question on the Sikh shooting though? Mm-hmm. Would this be the same Sikh shooting who's the one of the victims' sons would bring the world UFO news along with Stephen Greer, the questionably
the Disclosure Project, my friend,
disclosing something but not his sexuality, right?
The Disclosure Project is over. It's basically oversaturated with glowing intelligence assets that are
always has been, sir. Always
Yes,
has been.
right, and that is definitely from its infancy, and I believe the entire extraterrestrial UFO UAP in its modern form movement has been very much based and founded upon this psychological operational standpoint of how can we leverage the public to, one, deny God, which I don't know wherever you stand on the
I'm pro
kind of
God. I'm pro
the
God.
spectrum. Okay, the spectrum of spirituality and religion, but the notion in my mind, I don't at all. I don't at all kind of affiliate myself with organized religion whatsoever. That's not really who I am. But
Oh yeah, dude.
I don't judge anyone who chooses to do so. I just have always felt like a legitimate extraterrestrial myself and some sort of misfit. Anytime I've ever found myself in some sort of congregation of some kind, it's like collectivism is kind of inherently in opposition to who I am as a person, and
I like your style, sir. I like your style. I left the Mormon church 23 years ago. I've recently recently come to the point where I've spent more than half my life outside the mothership. And, speaking of motherships, and I've never once had a thought of, hey, I'm going to, no disrespect to the other JJ who became a Satanist after he left the Mormons. I just have never had a thought to join anything else. You know what I mean? It's never been like, oh, I have a belief in God and all these things, but, I've never been like, oh, I need to go get baptized. Nah, they already did that to me. I already got that.
Exactly. Exactly. And
So
I
this
think
is that movie. Oh, go ahead, sir.
no, you bring up Sirius. It just instantly, I think, the Order of the Solar Temple and the Star Sirius and the Luciferian Revolution, right? Like the Green Order and the International Luciferian Society and all these strange kind of offshoots and chapters that formed in that sort of revolutionary state and environment. And I think so much of that was a key concept in terms of the psychological operations at large and how they would facilitate this new age ideological religion of some kind that would replace the God hole, that they would in every way kind of strategically layer into the subconscious mind and have people reject and refuse to embrace that notion as some old way of life and some sort of conservative ideology of some kind, right?
Yeah, dude, for sure. I like your use of the term God hole. I'm going to borrow that and rob that from you, by the way. So, because folks do have a God hole, man. It is something that folks inherently have a need for. I do believe in a connection over a higher state of being and creators, if you will. But I don't want to get philosophical on these matters. I want to talk ancient alien cargo cultists who the moon's pale beams, and Stephen Greer's buddy, who the Disclosure Project was financed by Nelson Rockefeller, not Nelson, Lawrence Rockefeller. My apologies.
Right.
And it's connected directly to family. Yes, sir. The other Rockefeller, right? So we see the director of that film, Stephen Greer's buddy, his father was indeed a victim of that Sikh temple shooting.
My God. That is just
look at that, sir, right in your face hole.
This is where how on earth can you believe in coincidence at this level?
Exactly, dude.
Right. Yeah.
Well, so in regard to Gladio and propaganda here and Psyops to Mind War, the Kino and whatnot, we're sold these propagandized matters. So events happen, and then they look at the shit show and boondoggle that occurred. And I would argue that, like you said earlier, sir, a little callback to your statement. Not only do all roads lead to the Society of the Cincinnati, every mess we're in now, politically, socio-politically speaking, here in America, goes back to that JFK. That whole Bay of Pigs situation, as Tricky Dick told Dick Helms back in '72. He's like, we know what you did there, the CIA, and the whole Bay of Pigs situation, and paying off E. Howard Hunt, who may or may not be D.B. Cooper.
Right? That's what I've heard many times.
Right? That's what Tricky Dick said. We got to pay E. Howard Hunt off, right? He's like, Tricky Dick got excited in the Watergate tapes. He's like, a bribe? I can get a bribe. What do we need? $200K? I can get a bribe. You need a toe, dude. I'll get you a toe by 3:30.
Hey, there's
nail polish too.
Yeah, exactly. I'll get you a toe.
I'll get you a toe, dude. You need a toe, I'll get you a toe.
But I will say that Dorothy Hunt's kind of path to her tragic accident, right?
Yeah, by path you mean plummeting 200 feet short of the Midway Airport runway.
Exactly, which is so insane that they completely infiltrated the individuals on the ground at the what's it called when you're a part of the group that's the air traffic
Disaster
control.
response?
Well, that as well. There were over 50, I believe, FBI agents on the ground prior to any of the local officials getting there, and
Well,
that
they're
was
good at that, sir.
yeah, it was
They're
fascinating.
known for
how
responding to plane accidents. I don't know if you know this is one of the tactics and tools in the toolkit of the Federal Bureau of Investigations. They're known for responding to plane crashes before they crash.
definitely, and
Right.
and
You're familiar with
It's-
U.S. Senator Paul Wellstone, one of the most vocal opponents to the Iraq-Afghanistan war. I'm a combat veteran numerous times over from that war. Those folks who voted for it can go fuck themselves. Anyhow, Paul Wellstone was not one of those folks. And Paul Wellstone died in a mysterious plane accident along with his family after a strange meeting with Teddy Kennedy in the Minneapolis private hangar at Minneapolis Airport before flying north to Minnesota and going to a wedding. Crashing his plane in a random out of the middle of nowhere field. Lo and behold, the FBI was already present for the plane crash. That's fucking weird, right?
What about the totally not suspicious plane crash for Gary Caradori? I mean,
yeah,
There,
exactly.
there you go. So that's
they were
another
also
one.
there too. They were also there like that.
Excellent point, sir.
100%,
I
buddy.
didn't even think of
And
that.
there was
You
a
got JJ
victim-
me, sir, and I'm not going to keep putting up with it, but please continue.
there was a victims advocacy group within the context of Columbine where the actual leader of the organization itself died in an infamous and tragic plane crash, right? And it's very strange how this occurred, but it seems as if this was in some sort of effort to obviously facilitate the cover up in many ways. But
Dude,
not
one of
at
the
all.
kids, one of the Columbine kids died in the year after in a one single, plane crash.
Now, I need to confirm if that is the same plane crash, to be honest, because now I'm very interested to actually
We might be
confirm
talking
those
very
details.
different plane crashes. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, they might be
So on
two
the note of
separate-
that, if we can talk death fear, if I can bring us back in here, talk death. So miserable bitch, not her, and I'm not cursing her. That's her actual screen name. Appreciate the comments. She's got some great stories. Her father was a roommate, obviously former roommate, and both have passed, of Gigi Allen. Talk about some
No
processing and
shit.
connected activities.
No
Warhol,
shit.
right? Yeah.
That's
So,
ridiculous.
Wow.
He's got some interesting tales in that, and I appreciate her commentary tonight. So they were teaching some death education courses. It's actually where death education
Yes.
began. If you follow the road to where the inception of these matters go, they were the first ones in the state of Colorado to start teaching these courses, and they're basically an eruption of that same 1970s MK Ultra programs.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
There's a reason that one of my final chapters, I believe my actual final chapter after Wade Michael Page and the Sikh Temple connection and Todd Blodgett and Resistance Records, which factors in the Confessions of a DC Madam and the White House tours of the child boy prostitutes and who were sexually abused in an orgy across the street in an office building after the fact. And this all happened during the Reagan administration. And it's proven that Todd Blodgett was basically the handler who was financing Wade Michael Page directly after he resurfaced in 1999. It was the year 2000. He's directly connected to Todd Blodgett as far as Wade Michael Page is concerned. And I could not believe.
And where does it feel like, if I may, where does Henry Vincent fall into that category? Because we see him from DC to the Al Franklin stuff, right? And he's involved. Yep. He's doing the front operations for a lot of these credit card transactions at a funeral home.
100%, yes. And he was working on behalf of the CIA, obviously running sexual blackmail operations at the time. And when he allegedly committed suicide, which in my mind it either factors into, and Nick Bryan is of this kind of.
You mean as if I may, Sir Spence committed suicide, right? His associate.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, not Henry Vincent.
I was about to say, Henry Vincent's my kinfolk, sir. He's from Logan County, West Virginia.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
Unless I've heard otherwise, I believe he's still alive and well, living in Man, West Virginia.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was the individual who actually was running the male escort service at the time. Obviously,
I was concerned for a moment, sir, because some vampires murked another one of my cousins from Logan County. They're another band.
No.
So.
Hey, don't bring up vampires.
The Kentucky Vampire Clan,
Are you serious?
See, Heather Windorf's mother is a couple times over in Abner Vance, so she also went to high school with my aunt there in Logan County.
Well, we'll get into
one of the than my kinfolks. I thought Henry Vincent was still alive. You could be right there.
No, Henry Vincent.
Isn't it weird he is alive though? How is that dude still alive?
Yeah, you would wonder why. But I remember I believe Nick Bryant was of the mind that he was essentially Craig Spence was given the sort of given the offer he couldn't refuse. Basically,
Retirement.
you kill yourself, or we inevitably assassinate you in some sort of hit, right? And stage it as a suicide. So
Yeah, that sounds legit.
yeah, whichever one happened, the same result is the consequential outcome, right? And I'm not quite really concerned with how the CIA orchestrated his death, because either way they're responsible. But I will say that the Todd Blodgett connection is important, and so it's immediately after the Columbine High School false flag, emotional, arousing, violent mass casualty event. You have Wade Michael Page withdrawing and turning up with Todd Blodgett, right? With this notorious CIA Nazi-related operative. And it wasn't just happenstance that Wade Michael Page would resurface in 2000 with the allegation.
Oh, he's a campaign strategist. I didn't know that.
Dude, I'm telling you. And
Well,
not only that,
strategist.
he
Right.
was the point man.
Sure, can you hold that thought for one moment, please?
Yeah, but
Did you say Nazis?
Nazis, my friend.
Sorry about that. I had a dog situation popping off. It was raining earlier, so they had them inside with me here during the show.
It was perfect. Honestly, there was no better moment.
I love
because
Fletch, dude. That's probably one of my favorite films right there.
That is such a hilarious movie. But I think it's there's no better moment, to kind of highlight the almost clown-pilled nature of many of these events, right? And I think
You ain't kidding, dude. We live in a Muppet world, sir. We're run by Muppets.
yes, sir.
These are not real. These are not real people. They're not serious people.
Right, but I also think it's almost a part of the layered demoralization campaign effect in a way. Dude. Yeah, because it's almost like the code of the vampire, right? Like if you allow
humiliation ritual. I mean,
right, but go ahead.
It is in our face, right? But they've even gotten people to the point to literally deny their eyes and their ears and say, no, this isn't happening.
Yep,
and anyone that points it out,
you're looking for, sir.
Right? Exactly.
Pay no attention.
Ooh,
these statements.
Yeah, watch out. They'll get you with a laser twice. I mean, it's crazy to me that they've just gotten it to this point, but it is a humiliation ritual coming from Satanists. Like it totally is.
Yeah,
I don't disagree, sir. It is the demoralization. Do you think for a second that these fucking Muppets that take over American corporations and intentionally run them into the fucking ground are doing so because they want to ruin America? That's the only reason. I may have started that with a question and that with a declaratory statement. So for example, if I may give you an example, so there's a Muppet. He was a VP of Muppetry at Apple. He got hired as the CEO at JCPenney Corporation, a 140-year corporation at this point in time, circa 2015. I'm digging through some malted hops and bong resin at the moment, gents, so give me a second. And his first order of business, I tuned in and read the quarterly report regardless of the matter because I was like, what the fuck? So I read an article. I was like, that can't be real. He actually says in the first act of business, his first quarterly report to stockholders, folks that pay money and buy stock. We're going to tune all of our entire business model towards the LGBTQ community, which he even indicates represents less than 3% of their entire revenue.
Wow.
Now, that's not a decision you make based on capitalist pigs like these commie fucking pricks that do these things that claim, right?
No kidding.
America sucks, capitalism sucks. Go fuck yourself. You're ruining it on purpose. That's not capitalism. I'm not pro. I got a lot of issues with capitalism. We don't have a capitalist system in the first place.
No, it's crony capitalism.
Nonetheless, yeah, what's capitalism? Satanism. What's Satanism? Never heard of that. That's 30 fucking years.
Right. Yeah, and then that's what. Oh, I thought it was so funny that
must have been the amnesia, sir. I think I just figured out that must have been the amnesia caused by them lasers.
There's thousands of Americans out there. By the way, I've been shot with a laser beam twice.
Watch out, folks. They got Ted twice. They got him. Ted down.
I will say,
before we got too far away from it, Austin, I wanted to ask you, like, what is your opinion regarding the teachers being involved with like helping with the basement tapes and like getting all of these kids into some like crazy ideas, like especially with the death education and everything? Like, what's your position on that after going down the rabbit hole?
I view Columbine itself as an operational hub, clearly, in terms of the reason why the curriculum was kind of enforced and implemented and leveraged upon the student body, because it clearly seemed as if this was applying to, we're talking kindergartners and up, right? So it's not only are high schoolers going to morgues and witnessing dead bodies, they're taking young grade school children to those very same funeral homes and
little kids.
Yeah, little kids. And by the way, I pulled a video. We don't have to watch the whole thing. I figured I might add it. Okay, I'll pull it up in just a moment, because I figured we could at least pause it and kind of reference it and talk about it for a moment, and then we can pull it off stage if we want, not really address it further. But the point being is that it's fascinating. First of all, the individual running the funeral home almost looks like he's a part of Operation Paperclip. The guy like resonates.
Sure, that's why I brought up my kinfolk, Henry Vincent, running the funeral home in the Franklin scandal. Exactly. You thought that might have been a disjointed statement. We were talking. Are you in my brain hole, sir? You see the same pattern of behavior, right? This funeral home,
exactly,
and ingrained in the same network of behavior, right, around these operations of national 100%. Security.
Right, exactly. And the largest owner of funeral homes in the United States is mob families. So,
no, that's a coincidence, right? That's so ridiculous.
Totally normal. Totally normal.
Yeah. If you understand how much there's a helping hand and kind of like this coexisting nature in terms of the infancy of the intelligence apparatus, just being hand in hand with that of organized crime and utilizing them in any given moment for plausible deniability purposes, things of that nature. That's why I always point to Joe Nesline and during Watergate, running the Columbia Plaza prostitution operation at the Watergate complex. I mean, through Heidi Reichen, the White House call girl. We all know she was one of the first Ghislaine Maxwell's who was accumulating, athletes and owners of sports franchises like the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns in her little black book for sexual blackmail purposes. And she was in Dallas just before Watergate popped off and Nixon took office. I mean, that was her role. And what is she? She's a product of Operation Paperclip. Her father was a Nazi SS U-boat captain, and she spoke fluent German, right? I can't remember her name. It's so fucking German, I can't remember it. But but honestly, and when you talk about Craig Spence, I mean, this is a power broker, a high-level espionage, sexual blackmail operator who's clearly, in many ways, obviously he was a lobbyist for the Republican Party, but beyond that, I mean, he admits personally to working for the CIA while conducting these high-level espionage and sexual blackmail operations on behalf and with and through CIA agent Felix Rodriguez, I believe, was who he named as the individual who he operated with. And so that in itself, through Professional Services Incorporated and the child brothel that was being set up because Larry King and Craig Spence were so clearly...
Not the broadcaster.
Yeah, Lawrence, I'm telling you, Lawrence E. King, just being the individual perpetrator who was sitting on Craig Spence's couch whenever Henry Vincent first went to his apartment that was fully rigged with audiovisual blackmail on behalf, which by the way had 24-hour security Secret Service detail that was running security for the operation, which was fascinating.
Yeah,
I'm
coincidence.
telling you, dude, the Secret Service is involved with all this shit. They pop up in what's his name?
Matters of national security, sir. If I may, they popped up in the Allegheny County prosecutor's office when the mother of Dakota James, a smiley face killer victim, was
No
brought
fucking way.
second autopsy to the prosecutor's office from Cyril Wecht himself, the infamous pathologist, who said Dakota James had been kidnapped, tortured, and murdered, and later murdered, dumped in the water for roughly 44 days, kept alive and tortured and before murdered. And this was proven through forensic science that the authorities ignore. But for some reason, the Federal Bureau of Investigations and those Muppets at the Secret Service, some former troops that work in those, they're not Muppets, but some of them are Muppets there. They decide they need to be there present for a victim's mother trying to get the case opened up for a homicide to her satanic serial killers come home, the Phoenix program, the next evolution, the smiley face killings. That also seem to revolve around the process of folks like Michael Moynihan and their neo-process movement of Boyd Rice, that Nazi Satanist who's the mentor of Trent Reznor, Marilyn Manson, Tracy Twyman, just saying. And we see these matters. I think, again, these things are persisting because of the fact that we're sold propaganda. There's a narrative that goes on in America beneath the normal society that is wildly and vastly different than what we're sold and propagandized here publicly. This is kind of my position on that. So we look at matters such as, for example, you've connected the Sikh shootings, the attempt on Obama there in Denver and the DNC conventions, to the Aryan Nations compound, all these fucking Nazis in Idaho. And that's the Colby's Queers operational compound, in my opinion, up there, the Aryan Nations compound.
Sedalia, Colorado complex, I think, was also a strategic operational hub for the reason why members, so adult co-conspirators who worked as delivery drivers at the Blackjack Pizza restaurant were legitimately the individuals. Two of them were the ones who arranged and orchestrated the weapon sales to the underage. Well, first of all, obviously it was through their friend, apparently, who was a female who also attended Columbine, who was of age. But the purpose was they illegally obtained for these underage kids knowingly with full knowledge of kind of the who would ultimately end up with the weapons themselves. And because Eric and Dylan were at the actual what was it, what's it called? Damn it, the gun show. I forget the name of the gun show.
Well, no, you're spot on, sir. You're making a lot of great points of how you're identifying, again, protocols of this framework, this identified protocols of this identified framework. So this location in Colorado you're talking about as being a hub. So if you look at I used to be a military planner, war planner as well. I took a break from being an MP for a few years. Ran some current ops there out of DC in a bunker. I was a dude in a hole. I'm like, dude in a hole, get me out of here. I went to Baghdad. I found Iraqistan more favorable in combat to Washington, D.C. in my fucking hole. But anyhow, what I was getting at there was, when you're looking at things in the military operations, which I would argue all of these matters of gladio proportions should be discussed in, as we are doing tonight, you're going to see the Aryan Nations compound would operate as an administrative hub where you'd have operational regional centers.
Exactly.
And Florida Everglades, right?
Exactly.
This guy knows what I'm talking about.
Hey, bud, this is the hand of death cult, and in many ways.
Oh,
100%.
Are you my brain hole, sir? Because that's literally where I was going next. So then we talk about all these disparate times, shootings and events, parapolitical events over time. We look at areas, so we're looking at times, things time-wise. Let's look at them geographically speaking, and think how disconnected is Columbine to the John Benet Ramsey situation and the evangelical movement surrounding that as well, like Columbine. And in addition to that, we have a Columbine shooter. His father works for Lockheed. We have Mr. Ramsey works for Lockheed. And Edward Wayne Edwards' son works at the Denver office of Lockheed alongside both of these men. So, and that man is the most prolific serial killer you probably never heard of. And I assert he is the general of that hand of death cult, as described by Henry Lee Lucas. Ed, get this, my cousin Chuck, that's Charles Manson, and Otis Toole were in the Chillicothe Federal Reformatory in Chillicothe, Ohio in 1952 and 53.
Oh my God, dude.
MK institution. That's an MK Ultra institution.
Dude, that's where Henry Lee Lucas was getting programmed, dude. Like through, and in every way, dude. Like I covered this. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I was just gonna go ahead. You covered this already.
That I started the Ultimate Evil, the Process Church of the Final Judgment, my episode that was specifically kind of covering the network itself, but through the lens of the Son of Sam, obviously, but I began with the Henry Lee Lucas, Otis Toole, and the Hand of Death cult, and I essentially started with. And I added the note, I think, after I actually did the episode about the Chillicothe Correctional Institution, right? Because
so you're onto that game, huh?
Yeah, I had fully realized that this is the same place Charles Manson was incarcerated in the 1950s as well, and experienced. He experienced a major turnaround in his life, and purportedly,
I argue they both became CIA operatives of Project Chaos Variety because Ed gets a 100% identity and doctor credentials. He got a certificate of being a doctor. He got the whole works. Like Jeffrey Epstein, his fake passport, right? So Ed got the name Dr. James Garfield Langley, like the president in those Muppets at Langley. Ed gets arrested for numerous murders with that identity and gets let out. Before becoming the FBI's most wanted man in America, before being arrested in Atlanta by the future captain, the guy who ran the Atlanta child killing task force years later. This was 1962. Yes. So when he ran the task force years later, Ed's in Atlanta taking a picture, hugging the fucking guy in charge of the task force. Allegedly, the task force, one of the killers was a white man dressed in a police uniform. Well, lo and behold, Ed would be arrested in Marietta, Georgia in March of 1983 for an arson fire burning his home in Pennsylvania, where they found a Marietta police sergeant's uniform, and he was arrested at a Marietta police sergeant's house by the Federal Bureau of Investigations.
That's amazing. One of the leaders of the Atlanta Child Murders Task Force was also responsible for the facilitation of the cover-up of the John Benet Ramsey case. And then thank
you. There you go. Because who else is from Marietta, Georgia, and they're buried there today? John Benet and her mother.
Exactly.
He's from the father's from Marietta, but that is where they're buried. The mother, lo and behold, is from West Virginia, former Miss West Virginia.
Of course.
Well,
she's not from Logan County, sir. She's not from Logan. She did participate in a beauty pageant in Logan County. I can tell you that much.
Oh my God.
Isn't her dad's family from Michigan though? Which because her grandfather was the one that approved the airfield for North Fox Island.
Oh, for Francis Sheldon.
Who was this?
Yeah. John Benet's grandfather.
Yeah.
Maternal grandfather.
Yeah.
Was it John Bennett's
paternal grandfather?
Okay. Was the father John Bennett's father? Because I believe so. I believe that was who it was, and he's the individual.
I did not know that.
So he approved the purchase, and he also approved the building of the land strip on North Fox Island.
Yep,
because he's like big. He's big shit up there in Michigan, in northern Michigan.
This is why Francis Sheldon was able to escape and kind of obviously
100%.
Yeah. And I think that when they arranged this sort of pedophile subscription model that they were promoting in Paducah magazine and all these things in regard to the Odyssey Foundation and
that's where he went, right? He went to Amsterdam.
Yep.
And to the Netherlands, which, Paducah magazine, I believe that he has some tie to that, which Ralph Underwager, get the fuck out of here.
False Memory Syndrome Foundation, my friend. Right. Yeah, dude. And it's
I love that point. I did not know that, sir. I did not know that. This is what I mean, though. This is the reality I'm talking about that exists just beneath the surface of our, quote unquote normie reality we're sold and propagandized under.
This is what pisses me off. The conspiracy theory label. It's like, no,
sure, dude.
It's insulting. Right? It is insulting at this point.
Let's be honest about the situation. There's a large volume of folks that simply don't have the intelligence quotient, let's just say they have a compromised intelligence quotient there, if you will. I don't want to be a dick about it, but I don't.
Fair.
Some people just will never get it. And again, I don't think that their folks are supposed to get it. I think there's a certain degree of that makes sense.
That's true. But I actually agree with that.
In regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his only client, Les Wexner, would you believe that Dylan Klebold's great-grandfather, his mother's grandfather, that is, her mother's family, his mother's family, that is, I'm sorry, his mother's father, disregard, his mother's family is a wealthy Jewish family from Columbus, Ohio. finances all of the Jewish
Right.
facilities in New Albany, the home of Les Wexner. In fact, old Lester, the guy who bought Air America, from the CIA
Right.
for many years. He, Jeffrey Epstein's only client. The
Oh yeah,
was
the
a,
founders
his,
or the finders were directly involved with the exact same airline
Absolutely,
that was
sir.
clearly a CIA product. But
You mean the brawn panty guy?
the other fellows. So
Yeah.
he buried he had his mother's funeral service. It wasn't a burial, but the funeral service at the local Jewish center there in New Albany, Ohio. Named after Dylan Klebold's family, his mother's family, because his mother's father is the namesake of that building.
Exactly. So this is so crazy because by the way, Dylan Klebold happens to have
fucking
been
wild, dude. This is,
Hey,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is, you start looking at all these things and the totality of the events we're describing here now, all these things are connected over decades, over time and space, and geographically speaking. You're like, what the fuck is going on in America? We live in a Muppet world.
Now, the one thing I didn't know, Austin, that I learned watching your Columbine episode was that Dylan Klebold was actually in his own version of the GATE program.
Yeah, the CHIPS program.
What the fuck is that? Because Eric Harris, obviously he was programmed in some form or fashion. He was it was like an extension of the Montauk project, right?
Yeah, you're right on. Let's get into that if you don't mind. If you don't mind this Plattsburgh situation, the flight simulator business, right? Because that is what you're saying, sir, as far as the programming goes, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's essentially what I came to find was basically that there was, Dylan Klebold was clearly a part of the CHIPS program, right, which was a very interesting program called the Challenging High Intellectual Potential Students program, right? And this
real quick before you go off on that, because I want you to cook, but every state is responsible for creating their own program. So there's 50 different education programs because these GATE programs are actually ran through the state education boards.
Yeah, Ohio was called Span. I wasn't allowed in there because I had a quote unquote problem with authority. They can go fuck themselves. I don't know what they're talking about.
Hey man, what was it? Remember the Maine? Down with Spain? Wasn't that the man? Gotta love William Randolph Hearst, right? So I'll never forget his involvement in generating that propaganda. But at the same time, the fam. So
Patty Hearst's father.
Yeah, exactly.
Famed podcast host and TV broadcaster Chris Hardwick's grandfather-in-law.
Yeah, the media.
So all these fuckers know each other.
Yeah, exactly. That helped outlaw hemp and basically generate the what was the propagandistic film? What was it called again? The
Reefer Madness.
Reefer Madness. Yeah, thank you.
Have you ever thought Patty Hearst still alive? Her son-in-law and daughter, major media figures in the Hearst enterprise. They run it today,
right?
What is she doing? What is she financing?
We
know who her daddy is, sir. We know what he did. So that's all I'm saying.
So as far as I know, she is just hanging out. So whatever she is doing, if she is doing it, she's doing it behind the scenes.
Right. You think these people are just? I don't think these people are just hanging out, living in retirement. Though I think they're probably active doing hood rat shit. And I'm not saying
I think her usefulness was kind of used and done. So I think she's in retirement, right?
Yeah. I'm not convinced of these things, sir. But
I'm not saying she's not doing anything. It's just she's not out in the forefront she needed to be now.
I feel like you're always.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You took the Tuesday Weld approach, if you will.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like to some degree you're always a kind of viable asset, on the hanging on the branch of the opportunistic members of the mind war, right? Who are clearly operating at every level of society. So
you get brought out when they need you again.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, sir. Speaking of branches and the Columbine tree being connected to Venus worship, the Columbine plant there. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about all these cultists. The thing to consider, I think, is the women are in charge.
Right.
Yeah, to a certain extent.
Mary and the Grimstons of these groups are in charge.
Yeah, I
Right,
agree,
the
but
the bottom
also I
scores
think
too.
there's a level of let's say Belinda Schultz and the Paul Schultz case with this pedophile scandal that kind of brought a spotlight onto the Star Chamber and the White Eagle Underground and their legitimate connection, in my opinion, to the headquarter facility for this operational kind of it's very obvious they were just a part of the framework of modern Gladio in many ways,
Yeah.
and yeah, it seems like they were the individual organization headquartered there in Sedalia, Colorado, which was less. It was like 14 minutes, I believe, less than 20 miles, maybe 21
Yeah,
miles at
14,
most.
14 miles.
Okay, 14 miles and 20 minutes maybe at most, from Columbine itself in Littleton. So
Do you know if they're still there operating?
I don't actively, I'm not aware, but because the only real lens that I've gotten into the Star Chamber and the White Eagle Underground is through this so far,
Right.
So I'm interested to see if it comes up in the future, because I would imagine that it would, because none of these, viable kind of operational avenues are ever really permanently, derailed or cut off
Right,
or
they're usually just relocated,
Yeah, there you go.
repackaged and
Repackaged.
recycled.
Yep. They have
100%, but
There's contingency any operation has a contingency operation. I can assert more than one
Right.
probably too. So
And then the
That's it.
counter operation to whatever it
Wow.
is.
that's true. Because one thing I learned in Washington D.C., sir, is there's not just two factions. There's a lot of fucking different factions.
100%, bud. And
So incestuous.
oh,
Well, speaking of incestuous, the Federal Bureau of Investigation Muppets are involved in this too. All right, with the trench coat mafia, and that you were talking before about some of these matters before there, Austin, in regards to these things. So again, we see this control network around every aspect of this, the investigation and the pre-planning of it. These fuckers did a video where they blew up the fucking school Columbine style, right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
And that was the entire goal, by the way, as far as the 99 improvised explosive devices that they allegedly had manufactured over the course of the years period of planning leading
Right.
up to the event. And the entire goal was, as far as staging all of those IEDs and propane bombs and pipe bombs and things of that nature, was to bring down the upper level of the library onto the cafeteria and essentially blow up the entire school and kill as many opportunistically as many victims as possible, and then they would be on the outside waiting for any of the survivors to kind of flood out, and they would prioritize them as far as their targeting, and so I found that to be very interesting. Other than clearly, I think it's important, by the way, you guys brought up the family and Sue Klebold being obviously this prominent Jewish family. And it's very important. And I didn't expect it to really come up. I don't know why, because she has this Jewish heritage from her maternal great grandfather, or as far as Dylan Klebold specifically, his maternal great grandfather.
So like real Jewish heritage.
Yeah, 100%. They were
major figures in Ohio again, dude. This is Les Wexner's folks. This is an inner circle of elite Jewish folks here in Ohio.
Exactly. And both Dylan and his older brother, they apparently went to confirmation classes, and in accordance to the Lutheran tradition is apparently what they were actively practicing in the family household. But Dylan's father, Tom, was a geophysicist, and Sue had apparently developed an interest in working with people with mental disabilities, and even worked at a psychiatric hospital as a therapeutic arts teacher. And I was like, no, say it ain't so. Yeah, I was like, tell me that James Holmes' mother wasn't a psychiatric nurse who was very much heavily involved in that sort of MK Ultra mind control environment. Yeah, and it was Sue, who, as I mentioned, from this prominent Jewish community in Columbus, Ohio. She's the granddaughter of the late philanthropist and construction magnate Leo Yasinoff.
I was going to call him Yakima. Thank you, sir. Yeah, it was her grandfather, and was can you say that again? What name that?
Leo Yasinoff.
Yeah, Yakima. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah. So he built the local Jewish community center in Columbus.
Yeah, where Les Wexner had his mother's reception or whatever, not funeral.
Exactly.
Whatever
And
they
it
do,
bears
whatever they
his
do.
name as well, which is
Yeah,
very
it's named on the fucking building, sir. I
exactly.
seen it.
Exactly. And so when you see all of this along with Dylan's kind of interesting character shift leading up to the event itself, he all of a sudden becomes short-tempered out of nowhere. Rarely he's very much dissociative in nature. He's rarely opening up to anyone at this point. And he's like socially awkward as hell. He's entirely fidgety and things of that nature. If he's approached by anyone, especially he becomes exceptionally nervous, apparently around the opposite sex sort of thing. And it was very interesting to hear some of the descriptions, because that doesn't match with so much of the other students' kind of explanation of who they were and what kind of profile they fit character-wise leading up to the event itself. But they did all seem to agree on the fact that just a few months prior to the event itself, they did both seem to kind of shift in their mood and have this very much kind of bipolar, just in their kind of extreme reactions to things and
Now,
things of that nature.
was that the time when they got prescribed their medication?
Yeah, it was just after the van break-in, right?
Right.
And this is when you're having all of the kind of leading up to the event itself. You had all these repeated run-ins with the local authorities, and one of them
so
being
the cops finally get pissed, and then they end up on meds and allegedly, molested.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden they just go like downhill.
100%.
Yeah,
that's
and I would
exactly what
argue some of this is probably some of those warring factions, right? If I may.
Yeah, well, typically that's how it
county elements. We got a lot of spooky elements there. We got Air Force, DoD, NATO, UN. There's a lot of folks with their hands in the,
well, and then
up,
if they're assets too, they've got somebody watching over them at somehow,
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah, and Sheriff's Deputy Tim Walsh is the alleged perpetrator who committed the sexual abuse and raped Dylan and Eric. And this could have been some sort of, let's say, convenient transaction, as much as you would like to not want to conceptually imagine this as the outcome. It's I realized throughout the process.
What do you mean by convenient transaction, sort of, man? What does that mean?
So sheriff's deputy, or actually he might have been sheriff in El Paso County at the time of Columbine, named John Sullivan, he was tasked with internally investigating the basically these allegations of abuse.
Yeah, and his chief deputy was the one hired for the John Bonet thing, sir. So we see the connectivity of all of these things.
Exactly, and later on, by the way, John Sullivan, who had this prestigious kind of reputation, and who obviously helped facilitate the cover up at Columbine, and he inevitably in 2011, I believe, he ends up getting apprehended and at least exposed for attempting to trade methamphetamine for sex in a transaction.
Right.
And I thought instantly of Eric and Dylan. What could this have possibly been? When they were allegedly, by some of the students, witness accounts, they claimed that Eric and Dylan were experimenting with methamphetamine. Not only were they smoking weed, but they were also experimenting with meth in that little shack at Eric Harris's house leading up to the event itself. And that maybe they could have actually, just, let's say, gotten their hands upon this substance through some sort of convenient transaction with Sheriff's Deputy Tim Walsh, who could have traded.
Yeah, I like where you're going.
Maybe they're working with them on the back end, and they got out of a lot of trouble.
You never know.
That's what I like where both your gents are at on this one. Like where Brandon was at, because I think the rape of these two young men was, in fact, that to break their psyche and to traumatize them. And that trauma you said that he was experiencing, this was the moment. This was the epicenter of that trauma. This was to weaponize these men to use for their purposes. Because not only are they surrounded by these Nazi spooks of Colby's Queers varieties and whatnot, and doing gun training with them in the mountains, bomb training and shit like that. We see the head Muppet in charge of the investigation who rushed to the scene that day, whose sons were two sons, not lasers, two sons, were not only students at Columbine. One had graduated the year prior. One was a sophomore. The one that graduated the year prior was Trenchcoat Mafia. And they filmed a student video in his basement the year prior. So the connectivity of all these things are pretty alarming to me when you see the man who he rushes to the scene here. This is an article from 2009. Dwayne Fucilieri, an FBI agent whose son attended the school, is one of the book's prominent voices, a clinical psychologist and one of the nation's leading hostage negotiators. This put him on the map as being the lead hostage negotiator of all hostage negotiators.
Yep.
Right. Well, in this
but he was put in charge, despite being a hostage negotiator, despite having compromised position, sir. They put him in charge of the investigation. You tell me, sir. You tell me,
dude. I'm telling you, man. This is a video that's co-produced by the son of the FBI's lead agent in the investigation, who I actually pronounced it Dwayne Fusilier, but maybe I was wrong. You're probably more. I don't know. You're probably more.
Dude, I'm terrible. I'm terrible with names, sir. So no, dude, don't defer to me on pronunciation of names, sir. Yeah, dude, look right here. No, sir, it tells me right here. FBI agent said it's cool, man. It downplays the son's film. It's no big deal.
Hey, yeah, Janet Reno also said the very same thing. She said nothing to see here.
Huh? She's a gorgeous girl.
She said nothing to see here, man.
She said that there is no conflict of interest, and this does not cloud his judgment as far as an investigator.
Exactly.
Totally cool.
And when you see. Yeah, they're acting like it's standard FBI procedure to have your son on running a shoot. Dude, he's shooting.
It is standard procedure, sir. If you consider their primary protocol is to uninvestigate things, well, here we go, sir. This is a prime example.
You're 100% right
on
that.
Can you hold that thought for 1 second? I got a dog situation popping off here.
Yeah, buddy. Go ahead.
There you go, buddy. What is it? It's Fusilli Jerry. It's made from fusilli pasta. See the microphone? When did you do this? On my spare time. There you go, buddy. What is it? It's Fusilli Jerry. It's made from fusilli pasta. See the microphone? When did you do this? On my spare time.
Am I back?
You're back.
Sir. Yeah,
and thank you folks at the interwebs for joining us here, and thank you gents again for your time and conversations. I was just, as I was herding some dogs, I was processing some of these details. We were talking about Dwayne Fusilieri, I think his name was. Whatever you say it. What was his name?
Dwayne Fusilier. Who knows what his name is? Honestly,
Fusilli Dwayne. How about that? Like Fusilli Jerry. We'll call him Fusilli Dwayne.
That matches, honestly. And I saw someone in the chat. I saw someone mention Bruce Perry, Arliss Perry's.
I was going to bring that up.
Yes, thank you. I was going there too. Whoever did that in the chat that I'm way behind on, but I appreciate all the comments.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Why would he be brought in to consult victims?
Dude, not only Columbine, but
why is he never asked who the fuck murdered his wife?
Dude,
right.
By the way, he was a suspect at first, but clearly they instantly gave him some
weird amount of blood, right? Did he have blood on his shirt too?
Yeah, he had a shit
which was from a nosebleed.
Yeah, he said it was from a nosebleed, but it turns out he was also the psychiatrist who was in charge of treating the children at Waco, if you can believe that.
No,
I can believe that, sir, because these fuckers all know each other.
Absolutely, man. There's no way that any of this is not by design.
This is what I mean, sir. This is what I mean by we're propagandized under the National Security Act. Forget fucking whatever these new propaganda acts are. Free speech was eradicated, but via the National Security Act of 1947. If we don't know the details of these circumstances, how can we have an informed opinion in which to have freedom of speech to discuss these things?
100%. And can you imagine how much worse it is ever since it is now, legal to propagandize the American public?
Oh, sure. It's gotten a lot worse. It's adding fuel to the fire. But to speak to, and I've enjoyed ever since I first discovered your work there, sir, AWP, and your Twixter account. I was like, yeah, this dude knows what's up. Is your quote you've had posted up there for I don't know how long? It looks like it was from 2018, maybe, of Bill Casey, right? So. Yeah. But this is what I mean. We don't have a fucking clue what goes on in Muppet World. We're told a bunch of Muppet tales, and we're like, oh shit. We try to decipher these things to the known knowns, and we probably get somewhat close in. But I assure you, there's a dynamic we're missing, totally speaking, because while we're discussing the seemingly disparate events over time and space, and these fuckers all know each other. But I'm saying, so that indicates there is a narrative we don't quite understand.
No doubt.
100%.
And when you find out that it wasn't only one of Dwayne Fuselier's children who were involved and also helped with producing that film, it was his other son, who happened to be his youngest son, Brian, who was in the school cafeteria at the time and managed to escape after seeing one of the bombs explode. And this is according to the Denver Post in May of 1999. And that's just fascinating to me because
I thought the bombs didn't explode, officially.
Yeah, it was only a few of them that actually did.
Like they were duds or something.
Yeah, they only really provided real smoke in the area, right?
Oh, okay.
And kind of smoked out the cafeteria.
It didn't actually explode. It just.
No. What if that's what their intent was to do? Simply act as a distraction.
Right.
That could be very possible. Yeah.
Someone say they didn't go off. I say they did go off.
Well, I definitely saw there's footage. So I watched all 3 hours and 33 minutes, by the way, of the surveillance footage from the cafeteria in Columbine. This is the only publicly available footage, which happens to be very interesting if you consider a Freemasonic ritual component to any of this operationally speaking.
Right.
And I will say,
I like her brain holes out there, sir. And if I may just comment real quick, this is a mound site we're discussing here, Columbine High School. Jefferson County was founded on a mound site. The state of Denver, the state of Colorado, out of Jefferson Territory, was founded by a guy who's directly connected to the first Mound State Capitol in Chillicothe, Ohio. You're right next to that reformatory where Chuck and Ed and Otis and a bunch of fucking serial killers met. And speaking of that, 10 years after Ed was there, and 10 years after Ed's murder and robbery campaign in Idaho in 1959 that got him on the most wanted list, Thomas Eugene Creech would be in the same Chillicothe reformatory 10 years after Ed in 1962, go to San Francisco, join the Church of Satan, go to Idaho, do the exact same route and campaign as Ed did 10 years after Ed, down to marrying a 17-year-old girl in Idaho Falls, Idaho under a false identity. So these are the things I'm saying, patterns that repeat in themselves.
AJ, how dare you recognize those patterns? That's so funny, man. But that I had to bring it up because I'm telling you, I think there was a legitimate ritualistic aspect and factor
100%
into the Columbine massacre, and I think
absolutely,
that
dude.
Even as well as the Aurora shooting, I think that was very much at play. And when you see the Aurora Dawn obelisk at the Jefferson County Courthouse, where all of this took place, fuck out of here. Like, that just kills me inside. I can't sit there and witness this and act like this 12-pointed star at the base with the 12 victims of the shooting, where James Holmes is legitimately tried on, in this sort of theatrical, politically, a convenient prism and perspective and lens. And in every way, all you have to do is pull up this and realize that the entire structure of it resembles this sort of triple moon symbol of the Wicca, right? And looks like there's they're trying to kind of I had someone hit me up who even suggested that they were kind of reconciling the opposites in a way, right? This is in some sort of
interesting.
Yeah, I definitely took it seriously at this point.
Wait a second, sir. Did you just say the reconciliation of opposites? Because I've already identified a process operations in and around all of Jefferson County, let alone Columbine.
That is what I said.
That is the main philosophy, the reconciliation of opposites. That is the Baphomet statue that Tracy Twyman wrote two books, not lasers, about Baphomet, never mentioning her pal Doug via, Lucian Greaves, the wonky-eyed fella, and their Baphomet
Yeah.
statue, which he says is the reconciliation of opposites. It represents the
Right.
process, theology,
Right.
reconciliation of opposites. That's his word, sir, not mine. He might have a
Wow.
wonky eye, but I'll take him for his word.
No,
Well,
100%.
all I know is
100%.
though,
You should definitely
Aurora-
believe him when he says what he says.
Yeah, he's very
Absolutely.
serious about being processing. MrProcess.org. He's got a process church tattoo. He's you name it, dude.
I mean, he's
the
running the
self-proclaimed connecting principle from the old process that, by his own admission, never ended,
right.
and the neo process, which him, Boyd Rice, and Michael Moynihan, those two Jefferson County
Right.
folks who invented industrial rock, where Dylan and Eric apparently got radicalized through Nazi Satanist
Right.
industrial rock by some accounts. Oh, weird. That sounds
Which
strange,
he
actually.
also has picked up for the False Memory Syndrome Foundation,
Big time.
continuing on
He's got-
with what they're doing. And
So
He's got a degree,
I-
sir. Mr.
I
Doug there's
only-
got a degree in false memory from Harvard.
right.
So the only reason that I mentioned the Aurora Dawn obelisk is also because if you have to, I think, kind of factor in this layered context of what is the goddess of Aurora, right? This Roman goddess, which is all about this kind of almost like rising from the ashes like a phoenix, right? The Aquarius revolution in many ways, right? The implementing
Holy
the age of
smokes,
Aquarius.
dude. Holy smokes. You're blowing up my brain hole, sir. Please continue. I'm just saying, I'm going to bring up some examples of what you just said.
Well,
And
I'm
the
just
early
saying,
onset of America, relative to the Society of Cincinnati, you just fucking nailed it, sir.
hell yeah, buddy,
Plant bases
because
involved, too.
I'm telling you, she's this symbol of the transition from night to day. Talk about opposites, my friend.
Right.
And
You're spot on, sir.
and so it looks like she was this sort of bronze female figure on the top of kind of stationed at the top of the Aurora Dawn obelisk in front of the Jefferson County Courthouse, which was at its base a 12-pointed star. And so that in itself, I think, how can we kind of rule that out as a very prominent aspect of the case itself, if we're willing to actually go into those areas of thought, and
I like where your head's at, sir. Your brain hole is spot on here. So if I may just provide you some commentary on the Society of Cincinnati and the Inception of America and that goddess you're talking about, it's a machination or mashup of you can say it's different goddesses. I argue it's the same goddess and the language has changed. Shit stays the same and the language has changed. You can call it Athena, Diane, Hecate, you name it, Venus. You could call it America. You could call it Columbia.
Dude,
these are all the same
someone
things.
just said in the chat, Aurora, Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
That's such an MK Ultra concept. I didn't even think about it, man. Like that is 100%, some sort of, implementation of induced amnesia in a way. Right. And also inviting the, because who's the, damn it, what's the Maleficent, and not inviting Maleficent to the christening of Aurora, right? Like that in itself was okay. You're not introducing the evil concept to the child in their infancy, so therefore they have no defense mechanism in place to actually know what to defend against, and so they become a priority target. And not alone should we kind of rule out the kind of layered aspect of the oligarchy and the aristocratic family involved and their kind of direct descendant, but do you mind if I go get some coffee real quick? I'll be right
Please
back.
do, sir. We'll entertain ourselves and catch
Thank
up
you,
on some of
thank
the
you.
chat.
I'll be right back, buddy.
So this is a good point by Margaret Walker. So Fountain Square is built on a mound. We had a ritual human sacrifice, if you will, a few years back.
Right.
This is another public shooting that did happen. My friend and barber, his stepfather, was one of the victims. So I do know for a fact these things. Again, people died at Columbine. There was victims at Columbine.
Right.
I'm not saying every shooting there's no victims. There's multifaceted operations here, but this is how I met Lauren Coleman. He found my commentary on the mounds and him, and he's posted some of mine on his blog there, Twilight blog, talking about that Fountain Square shooting. So we see the inception of America birthed here in Cincinnati on Fountain Square in the operational center of the Society of Cincinnati to this day, I would argue. Right? We have a giant statue of Cincinnatus right here, down here in the Serpentine Wall, right? Shaped after the serpent mound. So America is born here in the Northwest Territory through Harrison, Ohio, as the Harrison family, like Courtney Love's dad. And then we see Lawrenceburg, Indiana, which was founded by John Vance. Disregard one of the Vances would be Abner, my forefather's alleged cousin, named after George's older brother, Lawrence. Then we see the next town that was built. This is the birth of America. After Cincinnati, it was Lawrenceburg, then Aurora. And then the next one down the road here they built was Rising Sun. So this is
Just
literally
a
what
coincidence.
yeah, but that's exactly, dude. So what Austin was describing about the occult nature of all these aspects. So these
Right.
things grew out. I would argue, there's a connecting principle. He's spot on. There's a connecting principle to all these things. So the guy who's the first governor of the state of Colorado, when he was 16 years old, he built the first state house. His home was built. It wasn't an actual huge state house. It was an actual house in Jefferson County when it was the Jefferson Territory becoming a state, and I think circa 1848. He was the carpenter on the first state capitol in Chillicothe, Ohio, there in circa 1803.
Shit.
That state capitol was built on a mound, right?
Right.
His father was the carpenter. He was 16 years old working with his father on that. I believe it has how the story goes. And then in 1838, Joseph Vance Jr., his father started the first free city in America, Washington, PA, following the Treaty of Paris in 1783. September of 1783. The society was
Right.
formed on May 13th, Friday the 13th, sir. Very Knights Templar thing, because it is the modern day Knights
So-
Templar.
Let me ask you this. Why are all state capitol houses pretty much the same? Because if you look at them, they're all pretty much built the exact same.
From Ohio state cap, many of them burnt. So, in fact, many of these state capitals, the original state capitals, have burnt, and other ones have been built on top of it or other places. But
Right.
there was a mound. Welcome back, sir. You just got back here from mound stuff, so we're bringing it back to Jefferson County. So I was pointing out while you're gone, what you were describing, sir, was spot on. The birth of America with the Society of Cincinnati. So after they formed the city of Cincinnati, right?
Mhm.
And again, Fountain Square built on a mound. This whole city's built on mounds. So then you see the first city they built over here, founded by a member of Clan Vance, named after George's older brother Lawrence, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. And then after that, the next city was Aurora, Indiana, right? Right here, Aurora. And then the next city they built after that was Rising Sun, Indiana. This is literally the Northwest Territory. These were the things established in the birth of America.
What
So
about
the guy-
how long did it take for Delphi? I'm only curious. You don't have to have an answer. I'm just like, man, Delphi, Indiana is so as far as just within the context of the Delphi murders. It's obviously a modern kind of footprint, in my opinion, of how much of the regional areas they really do have control over.
You're
And
spot
I
on,
think,
sir.
yeah, you see it. They're fully.
Let me give you an
infiltrated.
example of that. I do appreciate your brain hole. And again, you're where you're at with your brain hole there, sir. So here's a good example of what you just said. Do you know Philip Van Adder, the infamous LAPD homicide detective?
Not by name. I can't recall. no.
Yeah, he was the lead detective in the Orenthal James Simpson frame job. Very processed cocaine Bob and cocaine. Bill Colby related. Colby's queers. In fact, his
my
son Carl Colby, chief witness against Orenthal James Simpson for that frame job. That's weird. Anyway, he was a lead detective. He would in 1977. He became a homicide detective, robbery homicide, upon the arrest of one process member known as Roman Polanski at the Chateau Marmont,
No way. That
which
that
was
is
owned by CIA operative Al Ruddy and Cocaine Bob's co-executive producer, and the Godfather's wife. These fuckers these Muppets all know each other. So,
generation.
oh, dude, for sure. So, would you believe that not only that, Philip Van Adder, as a young patrolman, would be one of the first officers on scene at the Tate Polanski murder scene on August 9th, 1960?
Yeah, I would believe that. Yeah, absolutely.
He gets forced out of LAPD in 94 following the Simpson affair because, he planted a lot of evidence and shit like that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Him and his buddy, that Nazi Mark Furman, who's connected to the Aryan Nations compound to this day, was connected back in the 80s, according to an LAPD internal affairs investigation that they forgot to mention to folks that was going on during the trial. So that's weird. Anyhow, Van Adder would retire after that, or get thrown out and retired. He would go to Aurora, Indiana.
Oh my god.
He would So when you talk about this network, how the fuck does that Muppet get a job? And I'll do you one better. One of his patrolmen there in Aurora would later become the sex crimes detective in Cincinnati PD. And famously, when I say more like infamously, got busted a couple years ago for literally memory holing 20 years of fucking child sex crimes.
Oh my God.
Courtesy of Philip Van Adder. And one more for the road here, sir. Philip Van Adder, who is his daddy? What does he do? Well, his daddy and his daddy and his daddy, they're all from Logan County. I got a lot of Van Adders in that Appalachian family poll I was discussing because they're all from Logan County.
Right. Yeah.
Why do all these seemingly disparate geopolitical events and conspiracy culture we've been discussing, Franklin scandal, John Bonet, Henry Vincent, the Hatfields, McCoys, Charles Manson, you could even throw one of the alleged Manson victims in there, Steve McQueen, my fourth or fifth cousin McQueen. He's also McQueen's hail from Logan County. Why do all these folks come from this weird pocket of formerly Virginia?
Yeah. No, it's very much not an accident in my opinion, but it all reminds me of the disappearing and destroyed Columbine tapes, which obviously happened by the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department because they wanted to make sure that
our doesn't disappoint.
Future school shooters were influenced to potentially become inspired by the release of these tapes to the public. So we will always
what are
be
your
in
thoughts
the
on the cafeteria tape you mentioned before, sir? We're talking tapes.
Yeah, well, honestly, man, I think it's very obvious at a certain point whenever you realize that the convenient timing of the tape change, right, by the member of the cafeteria janitorial staff, allegedly, which I very much don't really buy into a lot of what they claim took place in terms of the timeline itself, because that in that moment would have caught on camera the black bags of Dylan and Eric that allegedly had been stowed with the rest of the students' bags. Although all of the student witnesses claimed no, they never saw any of those black bags, right? And that essentially this was a false narrative. But still, it's important to point out that at the very least, that was the exact same moment the tape change took place, which will now forever leave us in the dark in terms of not having the footage. Right. And also it's completely in counter and opposition to that of the official timeline. And that's been proven over the course of many years after the Columbine tapes and the Columbine files were, effectively revealed to the public as much as possible, as far as just the windows that we have available to us. It was clearly it's very obvious that we were never going to actually witness the setup and the staging of the school itself. And we were going to have to fully rely upon what seems to be some sort of, effort and participation in FBI fan fiction writing for some sort of official narrative reinforcement, right? Which very much seems to be the case, even in the context of.
Yeah, but it's the same shit, Austin, we see today, bud.
Yeah, bud. That's what I was about to bring up.
I think I got a delay. Here.
No, you're good. I was going to reinforce the idea, and I'm not trying to derail us, but it is legitimately Tyler Robinson and the Discord chat manifesto.
Maroon furry, sex messaging.
This is a manufactured FBI manifesto for right. That seems like it's some sort of fan fiction.
Absolutely.
And that only helps reinforce the false official narrative. And that's where I always remain skeptical. And you can't convince me otherwise at this point, because there's too many holes in that narrative. And in every way, each and every hole seems so gaping and just prominently raising red flags.
You're spot on. That's part of the psyop. Because those paying attention, you try to reason in your brain hole. You're going to go schizo, dude. This we went full blown schizo here, and that's why.
Right.
I've been there, dude. You try to reason again. You apply the same framework to Sandy Hook. You try to reason the gaping holes in that narrative and the non-response by law enforcement. Would you believe the operations lieutenant sat 2.5 miles away from that school for 4 hours during the alleged shooting at a construction site? Meanwhile, him and 3 other officers were within 3 mile radius of that. Never responded. Well after the thing was completed. Lieutenant George
they had to let the multiple shooters get away, right?
Well, we can have that conversation. There's a lot that goes on. So we see the same, but we see the same thing going on at Columbine. If you try to look at all the witness statements. The timeline doesn't match up. It doesn't fit the narrative.
Right.
They destroy all the evidence. The school's gone. They destroyed. They redid all of Columbine. That's a whole new wing that got shot up. Is got reconstructed immediately. We see it. So these things, I call it the whole hog approach to these parapolitical events. They serve multiple purposes. It's not just Gladio changing laws, not just behavioral modeling, right? Let it be the death courses, or just showing folks how you react. Like the Sandy Hook parents, like laughing on TV and like hugging each other and acting all happy. That's not how you act in the wake of the child laws. As a parent, I can tell you that would not be how.
I'll never forget.
I can assure you that's not reasonable to act that way. So you try to reason your brain hole, you're like, wait a second, I've gone full schizo here.
I'm telling you, I'll never forget Robbie Parker, and I legitimately believe that you have what was the acting? I'm trying to remember the company that was involved in the crisis actors who participated in the Boston bombing.
Crisis Actors Unlimited out of Denver, Colorado, sir.
Yes, that was it. And so they were very much prevalent in the Boston Marathon bombing. And I think that people should realize how much of what we see is there was a specific term that was actually correlated to the Boston Marathon bombing, hyper reality filmmaking. And I thought it was very interesting because it fits so perfectly with that of so many of, like, let's just say the Trump's, in my mind, the staged Trump assassination attempts. Yeah, they perfectly fit the profile of hyper reality filmmaking, and potentially even not having some event actually being live streamed in any real way with a live feed, but it's really offered up in a way as a live feed, but it's truly manufactured and entirely orchestrated and by the powers that be. And I think that's why you had individuals at what was the place where Thomas Crooks allegedly took the shots. You know what I'm saying,
sir. Would you believe that George Washington also survived an assassination attempt 4.7 miles, I think it is, or 5.7 miles away from that same site?
Yeah. I would believe that.
So guys, check this out real quick. This will blow your mind. Out of the city of Denver on denvergov.org, right? An actual government, well, not a government website, but it is from the city of Denver. They have a support team assisted response program, a STAR program that is meant for crisis actor response.
Oh my God.
So these things all formed out of this event. That's what I'm saying. This was a major. Oh, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
The STAR program, which ties into all of this beautifully.
The Star Chamber, is that what you're trying to allude to here?
Yeah, but we see this though. I actually saw this in a lot of exercises I even participated in the military and whatnot. Active shooters, which I always disagree with that term. I always said, show me the shooter, tell me where they're at, tell me where they're active, and I'll make sure they're no longer active. We'll just have this conversation. It'll be done. You know what I mean? That's not the games that are being played. Again, there's a larger framework of modeling in society and whatnot, and responses and non-responses that are going on here. And we see it from every aspect of the situations. And when I say this was not a tragedy, this was a celebratory effort. That's why we see every Muppet in power of military and politics going to the actual quote unquote ceremony and looking real fucking happy about it.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
And I should mention the fact that I know we never really discussed the subway shop murders, but I will say that
I was going to bring it back there, sir. But good for you, sir. I appreciate where your brain hole's at. You want to do that? Let's do that,
man. Yeah, I figured it was important because this was only 10 months after the massacre itself took place, right? And you have these two Columbine students shot to death in the Subway sandwich shop, and it's only 2 blocks from Columbine High School. And so it's interesting to me because it seems as if there's never been an official motive that was suggested as the reason why this took place. And they claimed it was a robbery, although nothing was stolen from the actual shop itself. And and this was, by the way, Stephanie Hart Grisel is the name of.
Well, it reminds me, sir, of the Mary Mahoney murder. You familiar with that?
Yeah, actually it does. Yeah, directly.
She was one of the early staffers for Clinton in 91 during his first presidential campaign, and then got a job at the White House, and then she quit, and 4 months later she was murked.
Yeah.
Right in the back of the head, pop, along with her 2 coworkers at the Georgetown Starbucks. Nothing was stolen. No signs of break-in.
Of
Chelsea
course.
Clinton visited her 2 weeks earlier previous to that with her Secret Service team. No, yes.
That sounds
not a
like
crackhead. He
Deborah
definitely didn't do
Paltry or something, you know. Let's just say
There you go. There's
yeah,
another good
who was
one.
visited by the Secret Service just prior to her, you know, committing the worst case of suicide you've ever seen, hanging herself in or in her mom's garage or shed. I can't remember now, but either way, who was the first on the scene at her suicide? The Secret Service just so happened to be the first on the
Typical.
scene to make sure
They're
they
good, dude.
they
They're really
managed
sharp,
that.
dude. They're really good at these kind of
Same
things.
with Henry Vincent's operation, right? As far as Craig Spence's apartment and Henry Vincent's operation as well. The first on the scene to infiltrate and manage the case itself and make sure they kind of misdirect the local authorities during the investigation process and take over the crime scene was the Secret Service. And it's fitting,
Yes,
right?
sir. And I think I've kind of misdirected you from this Subway stuff. Now, Subway Corporation, they're the kid diddling corporation that purveys himself as a sandwich shop, right?
Yeah, that's the one, dude. That is the one. And you know, by the way, I find it very interesting that clearly this robbery with no money taken from the register and the security cameras, by the way, happened to be turned off in that very moment, which is very obviously convenient as well. But it's
Totally
interesting
normal.
to me
Totally
that
normal.
it seems
Dude,
like
Jeffrey Epstein killed himself in that cell, sir. The cameras were off, the guards still asleep, dude.
I'm telling you
for not
though,
believing this.
Stephanie Hart Grizzle, this one of the victims from the subway shop murders, was
Did you say
legitimately
Grizzle?
it seemed like
Oh yeah. I haven't done her genealogy, sir. I do know that surname. Please continue. I
should
got a
be in-
delay going here. Please continue.
I guarantee you it's important though, because she happens to potentially be related to the very first victim at Columbine High School named Rachel Scott, who became this martyr for the Christian movement at the time. They acted like the shooters
Rachel
were
Scott, the
prioritizing
daughter
targeting-
of a. No, go ahead. I got a bad connection here, sir. Please continue.
No, you're good, bud. Go ahead.
Oh,
The
Rachel
daughter of
Scott,
who?
the daughter of the evangelical pastor.
I believe so, because she was actually the one who was propped up as the religious martyr after the fact. Her and one other student. Yeah, her and one other student.
So her father was soliciting Hollywood actors to save them from Hollywood. Folks like Dana Plato, who died a very suspicious death in the immediate wake of this, was allegedly living there at the Scott household the months prior to Columbine.
It never ends, man. It never ends. That's just
Now,
so crazy.
Wasn't there an employee at Columbine or at the subway before the shooting that ended up dying in the shooting, or like there was a connection before?
Yeah, basically her boyfriend was closing the subway shop because he worked there, but there was another worker from the shop itself who was the one who drove past after midnight, around 1 a.m. and allegedly saw the lights on in the subway shop and thought, oh, what the fuck? I should stop and look into why. And when they do, they discovered the dead bodies behind the counter.
Right. And
you know what I found out following that case, when I was just kind of like briefly doing as much of a deep dive as I could in this context, it essentially what I found to be the actual evidentiary claims behind this that were very much kind of memory hold following the event itself was that you had many different confessions that were apparently put on the record, right? According to who allegedly committed these murders. And it seems as if these were just kind of like these misdirectional false confessions that were coaxed by the authorities themselves. It reminded me of Richard Allen from the Delphi murders instantly.
Fuck
right?
Yeah, dude.
Right.
Yeah, the moment that he's like, he realizes that they're staging this false, case and basically hanging it around his neck as the murder suspect. He's realizing in the moment, and he's acting like any one of us who wouldn't necessarily be entirely skeptical going in and thinking that the authorities mean well, but he's figuring out in the moment that they are so clearly hanging him by the stake. Exactly.
Yep.
It's so sad to witness. But the only last
I
point
don't
that
disagree,
I have to
sir. I like where your analysis there, sir. And if I may, and as
Go
far as
ahead.
these matters you're pointing out, I do agree. Misdirection is very key in these matters of all matters of national security. Hold on. matters of national security.
Yeah.
So I like to play a game, compare like Bing and Google's and ChatGPT to see what the answers are to some things. I asked all of them who was Chris Morris from Columbine. All of them want to tell me he wasn't there that day. He doesn't even know these. We don't even know each other. That's what these always say, right? Here's a fucking picture of him at the scene getting arrested.
JJ, you got to listen to my episode.
One of the shooters was wearing a South Park t-shirt. Well, here the fuck he is wearing a South Park t-shirt. He's confirmed part of the Trenchcoat Mafia. He's let go that day. Nothing. He's out, dude. This is him on the left, living today, alive, out and well in the public, probably doing more hood rat shit, not of a Nazi variety, but. We were being told he's not even there. There's a fucking picture of it in the chat. GPT's like, nah,
of him there.
It seemed like it seemed like Chris Morris was coached on how to engage with the media after the event. He
getting arrested at the scene, dude, and then they're like, nah, dude, he wasn't even there, dude.
I know. No, I'm telling you, man. There's a video footage that I put in the episode itself where you hear Chris him explaining from his mouth, just leading up to the event. The relationship, because so it's very interesting, man. Like he was clearly hanging around with them at Blackjack Pizza. He had a vision he was explaining him and Brooks Brown. And there was one other individual perpetrator who was a friend of them and co-conspirator in a way, who essentially what they were doing was going in and looting these fireworks stands whenever they would close up, and basically get their hands on as many firework boxes as possible so they could then help remove the black powder and obviously they wanted to create pipe bombs with the fireworks is essentially what they wanted to do.
And I think they did. That's what I'm saying. Those fireworks, they were not there to achieve carnage. They were there to achieve distraction.
Right. And the Guerra report states as much, as far as you had the individual the gun shop owner who was providing Eric with all of his orders, right, to the house. It called up Wayne Harris and told him, hey, your ammunition is in, man. And he's like, what ammunition? Yep. And then and this is all in the Guerra report, which was later, this investigator in the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. They had a meeting, by the way, a very infamous meeting at this point, right at the same exact day that Columbine broke out and happened. And it was a management meeting. How are we going to manage sort of damage control is what the entire agenda was focused on. And we cannot allow any of the prior knowledge in terms of Eric and Dylan, but especially Eric, in regard to his run-ins with the authorities prior to the as far as just the lead up to the massacre itself. We can't allow this to come out, because we have on the record that we should have already had a search warrant filed, but we actually stood in the way of that search warrant being filed. So therefore, it was an affidavit, basically the Guerra affidavit. They stood in the way of, so the search warrant couldn't be, obviously obtained. And
I think what you're hitting on, sir.
Yeah,
if I may, I think what you're hitting on, sir, is indeed baked into their protocols of their operations in these major events, where they muddy it so much intentionally that no one's ever going to figure out shit.
Right.
100%.
They go into it that with this. I'm not assuring you this is going. I've never done it, and I'm witnessing it myself. I'm saying from a military planning perspective, this is how you would operate.
100%.
No, the same reason we see George Zen or Howard Zen or something Zen drop his fucking pants, say he's the fucking shooter, and he's connected to the fourth jump of fucking parapolitics.
So the way that they do this, they actually have manuals all about it, because they have an official story that comes out, right? And if the official story is not bought, then they already have the contingencies in place to muddy the waters, just like JJ said, to be able to, it's like, okay, if you don't buy the official story, if you don't buy that Kirk was shot with the 30-06, then they're just going to create chaos. So you'll never be able to figure out.
And you're spot on, sir. Let me fill your brain a hole up with this one here for a moment. Relative to Sandy Hook, on the morning of, I had some interesting experiences. Just that whole day was weird for me. But, and I'll get to that in a second, because it speaks to the
can I ask you a question? I just want to ask you. You believe it was a functioning elementary school leading up to the event?
Absolutely not a functioning elementary school.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Again,
it's in the fucking documents in March of 2012. So, well, 8 months before the event, right? 8 and a half, roughly. They moved to the Chalk Hill Middle School, the old Chalk Hill Middle School site. Now, it was announced to the entire world that Sandy Hook Elementary moved to Chalk Hill after the event, but according to the actual documents in which they have to file for internet services, for food services, for repayment from the state funds, from the federal funds for these things, those were all filed in March of 2012, well before the event, to move to the new address at Chalk Hill Middle School.
So the pictures you see of the building where it looks all dilapidated as shit are real.
No, and the children you see is an event the DHS held in October of that year at that fire at the local volunteer fire department, which sits at the entrance to the school, and all of those children came from the daycare that sits in front of the school. You can see it; it's right there by the parking lot. So these, and again, you can find the DHS thing that went on there that day, because you see pictures of all these children in front of the firehouse in October. Well, that was the DHS exercise before the exercise.
What about Sweet Jean Rosen? Who
I love Sweet Jean. Uncle Bean, dude. He's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite parapolitical characters ever. What Muppet thought that fucking Muppet was believable in any capacity, in any respect? I have no fucking clue. But it gives me faith that the folks that are real tarded, they're real dumb, that run these things, and they make real dumb decisions, and then they just succeed because they do so in the dark and with some wielding some power they probably shouldn't have. But we see these matters of Sandy Hook. Everyone's told that multiple shooters seen, the news cameras are there, and there's people running through the woods. That shit happened at 1 p.m.
Yeah,
the whole scene was locked down by the point in time. What I'm saying is, if you look at the documents, there's clearly exercises being run by the quote unquote responders there. For example, that one. So you see folks chasing, you see the news media selling it to the world. This has nothing to do with the actual shooting that morning, right? Well, there was no fucking shooting, but the actual event as we're sold it. That's again even after, but they ran exercises not only all that day on December 14th, they ran it into the next day. So the following morning in the Connecticut State Police record, no one looks at this shit, right? It's again, we're sold and propagandized Muppet World tales, and you look at the actual documents, Columbine, the timeline, the witness tape, everything, nothing fits according to the actual known knowns. Tell me why the Connecticut State Police SWAT team is infiltrating a tunnel system underneath the school Sandy Hook the following morning.
Hey, buddy.
Right.
It's in their
don't
fucking
even bring up. Don't even bring up.
You can take my word for it, sir. It's 17 SWAT officers signed an affidavit and filed reports stating as such. Why are they? What door are they breaching underneath the school? What fucking tunnel system?
Right.
Yeah, that sounds like it was some sort of strategical asset that was potentially placed upon a tunnel system that was already.
Well, there you go, sir. I like your brain on that, because Columbine had a tunnel system beneath it, didn't it?
Yes, sir.
Sure did.
And I'm telling you,
that's just a bomb shelter.
Totally normal. Totally. Yeah. Most schools build bomb shelters that have a tunnel system leading to the fucking baseball field.
Exactly. Yep. Right. Which is where one of the groups of individuals dressed in all black were apprehended and detained by some of the local authorities who were actually acting in good faith. It seems as if that weren't the ones who were actually firing upon the students, like Danny Rohrbaugh, who was legitimately murdered by one of the responding officers on the scene. And that was told to the parents by one of the additional responding officers who witnessed their obviously their co-worker and fellow operative and local official and sheriff's deputy legitimately shooting down Danny as he ran out and fled the building of Columbine High School. And so I'm not at all shocked that you have tunnel systems that are directly, connected to Sandy Hook, because by the way, I believe that Wade Michael Page, who was a modern Gladio operative who was kind of placed into position in Littleton after he kind of endured this sheep dip Timothy McVeigh path of the intelligence, kind of domestic intelligence, clandestine spook. He fits the profile perfectly, and he props up in Littleton, and he very much seems to also provide a direct link to that of Ken Zralok and this ATF FBI weapons sting, basically this sting that happened by the ATF where they cracked down on the Western Hammerskins, and Ken Zralok was one of the strategic operational founders of Battalion 14 and the Western Hammerskins, and he himself had apparently gotten these illegal weapons that he obtained, were later on that were seized in the ATF joint sting with the FBI from Ken Zralok, who had a direct, basically a direct sort of transactional obligation that they had negotiated between he himself and Wade Michael Page, who was financing and facilitating and providing him with the weapons to Battalion 14 and the Western Hammerskins. It turns out those weapons allegedly wound up being acknowledged and identified in the act of the Sandy Hook shooting. How is that possible?
Well, isn't
this is the Connecticut White Wolves, right? Battalion 14, the Western Hammerskins. That
I was about to say, dude, you're
solid.
dropping some fucking knowledge there, friend. I blowing up my brain hole, sir.
I mean, wasn't Wade Michael Page unaccounted for the day of the Aurora shooting, according to his girlfriend?
2 days prior, he disappears.
Right,
He's
just like out of fucking nowhere, just gone.
He stopped showing up to his job, and he just vanishes 2 days before James Holmes commits the Aurora Cinema shooting, and he's identified by witness Corbin Dates, who
and he shows back up after.
Dude, he described, yeah, exactly. He shows up after in some ridiculous apartment setting where the only person who witnesses his engagements with anyone in the outside world leading up to the event at the Sikh temple shooting happened to be a psychiatric therapist, right? Who's his downstairs neighbor in the apartment complex, and claims to have actually witnessed Wade Michael Page sitting in a dissociative state in his car, acting very strange, not responding to anyone or anything. And the only person who actually visited him leading up to the shooting as well happened to be the local pizza delivery driver, which I thought was very interesting, considering the fact that he lived 4.6 miles from Blackjack Pizza in Littleton, Colorado, leading up to the Columbine shooting, just after he was given a general behavioral discharge, for being drunk on duty at Fort Bragg after
Allegedly.
After he was a psychological operations specialist in Fort Bragg and trained for multiple years. He's then given this sort of path of death.
Personally, I think that's what lends to him being sheep dipped. They're just like, this is what we're gonna say. You're gonna be, kicked out, and then there you go. You're out, and you can now disappear. You are the ghost of the machine.
Exactly, man. You will be.
I think there's some great points, gents. And one other thing I'd like to bring up here before we bring this thing in for a landing here shortly. Here, appreciate folks of the interwebs joining us here tonight. Get a little GCD, and I appreciate both your gents' time and details. Both you men are a lot of details. Both you fellas got, so I do appreciate that, and got a lot of new tabs that I got to look into here. But regarding all these things kind of being connected and the connectivity and almost like the Twilight language, if you will, like speaking to the subconscious, George Bush told me, after 9/11, he did a couple interviews. No one could have ever imagined flying airplanes into towers. Now,
Stop it.
This is years after these two fellows right here wrote that in their journals. They were going to fly some airplanes.
Oh my God! Okay, hold on.
And fly them in the World Trade Center. So
we have a crossroads, a significant crossroads between let's say, I think I described it as the crossroads of 9/11 and Columbine, right? That's where I found myself. And I didn't realize there were so many significant connections. But I will say, exiting that small segment of the subway shop murders, I just wanted to mention that basically there was an interesting case that was conducted with all these various interviews following the subway shop murders. And essentially the claim was that, and this was by local authorities that were investigating this before they were essentially memory hold, was that suspicions arose that a drug ring had been operating out of the subway shop, and that investigators conducted interviews in more than 50 drug cases, but no new evidence turned up. Allegedly.
And so almost got him right, and it was close.
Exactly. So I just had to mention that, before we moved on. But beyond that, obviously, you have Wayne Harris and his military intelligence background and his direct connection to Flight Safety Services Corporation, which I believe provides us with the direct window into the crossroads of 9/11 and Columbine, and that is. It's very strange that, of course, DARPA is directly connected into this Flight Safety Services flight
strange
simulation software program. That John Bennett Ramsey and Wayne Harris would both be affiliated with, leading up to their children being essentially sacrificed in a nationwide global scandal, which seems as if It was some
Yeah.
sort of orchestrated event, let's say. But who knows? Whenever you have
Yeah, who knows, right?
yeah, dude, I'm just saying that flight safety
They're friendly,
services.
right? They do nice things, don't they?
Yeah. All that I'm saying is that you have John Ramsey and Wayne Harris, and they both essentially are employed. John Bennett Ramsey was employed as basically what was it? He was in charge of essentially the man, what was the name of the simulation software that he was responsible for? It's very interesting because essentially he was, it was the president of Access Graphics. That was the name of it.
There
And it
you
was
go.
in Boulder, Colorado, right? And
Yeah, he
basically
started it in Marietta, Georgia, before they moved it there. So
Yes.
looking into the Ramsey situation. He took a lot of money to financial support and growing his business from some investors. And I think that's interesting. That moved him out to Denver. They got him into the whole Lockheed thing, and then Lockheed bought him out. So he had Marietta investors, then purchased by Lockheed, which is how he got there.
Warren Buffett ends up inevitably agreeing to acquire Hathaway Incorporated, which was the holding company that essentially controlled Flight Safety Services Incorporated.
There you go, sir.
And it's very interesting.
Buffett of Omaha, Nebraska, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
He never was the police chief, the head of the newspaper, the Muppets down the street. Everyone gets named in Omaha except for old Warren.
Exactly. And I'm telling you, it's almost.
You know who else is from Omaha, Nebraska, sir?
Who's that?
There's thousands of Americans out there. By the way, I've been shot with a laser beam twice. There's thousands of Americans out there.
I love it.
They got him twice. Watch out. Yeah, Ted hails from Omaha.
That's too funny.
Isn't that interesting?
Oh, look, all I'm saying is the individual who was tasked with running, obviously, essentially, he was given the. This is so interesting because the individual's name is Dov Zakheim, right? He's the corporate vice president of the Flight Safety Services Corporation, essentially, and this Tridata Corporation, right, which was a subsidiary, right, of System Planning Corporation. And essentially what you have here is Dov Zakheim being the Bush administration's Pentagon comptroller and longtime Zionist DOD insider, right? And he's the one who's the corporate vice president at the time for Flight Safety Services Corporation. And if you kind of combine that with the fact that they were legitimately investigating and let's say just they had these operational kind of projects, right, is the best way to probably explain it. And essentially what they were Defense Department contracts that were all of these different programs that included computer driven electronic flight simulation software. And so if you understand that we're talking about 1997 leading up to the 9/11, right, then it all starts to make sense, especially whenever I discovered that you had these investigators that were following the path of the White Eagle Underground and the Brotherhood of the White Temple, and essentially claiming that there was a legitimate operational, they were claiming that there were members of international intelligence as well in scope of like Russian intelligence, and I believe there was one other country as well that was allegedly involved. Iran, which fit a perfect narrative. That was it. Yeah, it was Iran.
If I may, sir, you're going to look at this gentleman and tell me that's not a Muppet.
That is a Muppet.
That's
I've ever seen
one. Muppet, dude.
Exactly.
He's named like a Muppet. He looks like a Muppet. He's a fucking Muppet.
100%, buddy. And we're talking.
When you're saying all these things happened in '97, sir, I would say yes. I totally agree with you. It's a real den of iniquity out there. Back in March 31st of 1981. Denver, Neil Bush, son of Vice President George Bush, is part of Denver's booming oil business scene. So it was not unusual his path would cross that of Scott Hinckley. Oh, that's weird. They're cousins. The older brother, the Bushes are Hinckleys, by the way. The older brother of the man who shot President Reagan, not Reagan, you tell me. The younger Bush, a landman for the Amoco Oil Company in Denver, told the Houston Post in a copyright story. Why the fuck are you copywriting that? published today. He and Scott Hinckley were to have a dinner together tonight. Well, that's fucking strange. The dinner party at Neil and Sharon Bush's modest. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
One store in Southeast Denver was canceled. Oh, Scott's younger brother tried to murder old Ronnie there. They would have got old George number 1, and obviously he's the president. So it's weird how these things work out. That's pretty good.
Hey, that's funny. I just did my edit for Already Dead last week about that very thing.
Nice.
Hell yeah, buddy. Man, I all that I'm saying is that when you have sort of one last significant connection to that of 9/11, and you had mentioned it as far as the journals of Eric and Dylan, like you have Eric Harris legitimately personally fantasizing over possibly escaping after the attack, right? And potentially hijacking an aircraft with Dylan Klebold and crashing it into a building in New York City. And this is, in my mind, and the way that I put it in my episode was that it clearly seems to beg the question that it could be possible, let's say, that Eric was privy to his father's clandestine involvement, or let's just say there was another distinct possibility that the federal authorities and psychological warfare operatives took it upon themselves to manufacture their own self-serving journal entries, essentially authoring fan fiction for the FBI to strategically utilize in order to reinforce the official narrative. That was just one of the other options.
That's what I think
extremely accurate.
Mm-hmm. That's how it feels when you read it, and when you read Dylan Klebold seemed to be in a dissociative state when he was penning some of his journal entries, if he was legitimately the one doing it. And he talks about the hypnosis.
I think the witness statement still the same. Oh, go ahead. I'm behind. Go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good, buddy. I was just talking about essentially that he mentions the hypnosis place, and that essentially there was that he's speaking as if he himself is something distinct, like distinctly different. There's a distinction between he himself and this entity that resides inside of Dylan. And it's so strange to actually read through his journal in that kind of window and perspective.
You know where my brain hole went, sir? So looking at the witness statements, there's numerous witness statements of folks who were closely associated, classmates, not necessarily inner circle, but who knew him socially, and all said he was dissociated. And again, it erupted around that rape incident. Again, I think that was an intentional weaponization action and traumatization of these young men. And something they were already planned for, and it was putting them into action by doing that trauma there. And again, we see the application of that trauma in their dissociative state, by numerous reports, right? So in that regard, dude, I think, I think these things shouldn't be ignored. The hypnosis aspect is a repeating pattern of behavior.
100%. And there are allegations of Eric himself being, forced to endure induced hypnosis and these states, psychological states where he's kind of given this chemical recipe that will help him remain suggestible in these moments where they utilize these radio, essentially these electromagnetic radio frequency systems. And this was at the subterranean 18-layer bunker facility underneath the Plattsburgh Air Force Base where this allegedly took place. And it seems as if this was very much, a part of what took place in terms of, because what it was described as is that Dylan basically became almost like a part of Eric. He was brought into Eric, is what they claimed, and that made so much sense if you're considering the idea of him being the key operational asset in the context of this modern Gladio situation of strategy of tension. And so if you wanted to utilize this asset to then help dissociate his good buddy, best friend that was already kind of fitting that profile from day one and put on that path, then in every way you could exploit that for your own benefit. And I think that that's what happened, is they potentially triggered Eric into that state, and he helped radicalize Dylan to the point to where he was willing to go through with something, as much as even if it was just them, potentially being these actors within the framework of even, let's say, like the WAD levels of doom that they created that were diagrams of the school itself leading up to the event. Was that reinforcing their programming of here's where we will do this? And honestly, that's what it feels like.
Sir. I think so. So when you were saying about the dissociative nature of his writings and whatnot, and how he's speaking in the third party, my brain hole goes right to the Process. So here's Process co-founder, best friend of Robert de Grimston, Timothy Wiley, his wife, the daughter of Satan Astor Drayton, Society of Cincinnati, member out of South Carolina. That fucking Muppet. His first cousin, Mr. Satan Astor Drayton, his name was, I think, John, but everyone called him Satan. This is the 1920s. People are calling him Satan Astor Drayton. His first cousin, I believe it's the term, is financier of the Church of Satan. So these fuckers all know each other.
Of course.
Anyhow, so,
yeah.
Tim, go ahead, sir.
Well, I was just going to say that there was one last component to that of the 9/11 connections, and that is that Dylan Klebold happens to be born on September 11th, 1981, if you can believe that. So we have an occult holiday, essentially, right? I'm just saying September 11th is very much, at this point, it falls into that framework of exercising just the occult agenda in a way of the subconscious ritual. And I think that so many people for generations have unfortunately subconsciously endured and participated in these very kind of ritualistic, just opportunistic moments that have been exploited. And it's very unfortunate. And I saw that in The Son of Sam, and I see that kind of just resurfacing so very often, man, in terms of these cases.
For sure, dude. Repeating patterns. I like your style, sir. So, and speaking of Son of Sam, more Process shit. So, Timothy Wiley in the Process here, he wrote a book here, Ancient Alien Cargo Cultists, by the way. He calls them the Watchers. They tell him what to do. And he wrote a book. This entire fucking nonsensical book is written in a third party, calling it Mine Host. Mine Host. And I can think of nothing else besides the dissociative nature of those writings that reminds me of this Process fucking nonsense.
Yep. Oh,
Timothy Wiley's writing the book, calling himself Mine Host because a watcher, a fucking disembodied alien, is really writing the book.
Right. Yeah, no, Timothy Wiley made some interesting allegations as well that I found like, obviously I take all of them in a very skeptical lens as far as the way that I view it. But at the same time, I do find it interesting to witness at least the presentation of the psychological mindset of some of these kind of prominent players. And I wanted to mention the fact that just as far as I wanted to ask you guys both, if you had ever stumbled across those connections to the Order of the Trapezoid being a direct connection to the Temple of Set and essentially having this strange involvement with the Cabazon Indian Reservation and Iran-Contra. And basically that there was that the finders, here's the one thing that I thought was fascinating about it all, is that what the claim is that Johnny Gosch happened to be a victim of the finders. And that this group obviously had direct CIA connections, and even if we want to mention Athena Veronis, the Fixer, and these various individuals who are very prominent within Marion Petty's organization, and clearly have
Marion's son, Air America pilot, Bill Colby.
Hey, by the way, oh my God, that's where this comes into play. It blew me away that you have Marion Petty's son, obviously operating with and working for Air America, which is the CIA cutout that is operating on behalf of the Finders, which is this federal, infrastructure and organization that's tasked with the agenda and ability of strategically abducting children, infiltrating child care organizations, all these various babysitting promotional, like they would take out promotional ads in magazines and newspapers and claim that they were babysitters that would be perfectly willing to pass a background check and be given total reign over these strange children. And when
that fails, some of their members just kidnap 50 young young boys from Micronesia. I'm looking at you, Carlton Gadjusek, friend, underling of old Fauci, and also considering other elements like everyone's hero in the Franklin scandal, John DeCamp, that fucking Colby queer Muppet.
Man,
actually, Eradicator. I'm seeing Eradicator. I'm assuming we don't know the whereabouts of these 40,000 Vietnamese children that he was in charge of, extricating from. I mean, extricating, but they probably got eradicated.
Family of Mark Taylor. Basically,
dude, how are you going to tell me this guy was in charge of removing 40,000 quote unquote orphans from Vietnam? He probably killed their parents. Colby and his queers of those 32,000 fucking civilians they murdered. They probably killed those parents. They took the fucking children. John DeCamp was in charge of it. He gets elected senator for fucking Nebraska. Dude, what Muppet world do we live in? He's in the middle of a kid diddling operation in Vietnam for Colby and his queers. Gets elected back in Nebraska as a fucking state senator. Oh, he's going to save the day in fucking Franklin scandals. Hey, you know who he called?
What do you make of? What do you make of John DeCamp?
Laser tag Ted. We need some help in Omaha. Go fuck yourself.
What do you make of John DeCamp being essentially accused and then sued by victims of the Columbine or parents of the victims of Columbine, and basically claiming that he distorted their legal defense in terms of this was Mark Taylor's family who actually approached.
Ted investigates things.
Hey, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm starting to
go ahead. I didn't interrupt you. Go ahead, sir.
No, you're good, buddy. I'm starting to realize how much these individuals are leveraged against us in these moments, and to control the narrative, even in the conspiratorial realm. And it's so frustrating to witness the effectiveness of such an agenda, take place. And I will say that,
second, sir, let's look at the elements surrounding some of these ideas. First of all, what are your thoughts on this one? I
love it, man. I love you, Uncle Ted. That's my brother right there. That's hilarious.
It makes a lot of sense. When I looked into that one, I looked at it. It makes a lot of sense to me. And who was Jeff Gannon? I feel like other JJ, we haven't given you an opportunity. Austin and I have a tendency to just, obviously.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
No, you're good, dude.
I
think it's fantastic. So you're blowing up my brain. I don't want to give. I know it can be a little bit tough to get a word in edgewise between us here. And I'm going to give the other JJ some commentary. I know he knows Jeff Gannon. Not personally. I don't think you know him personally.
Let's hear it, Jacob.
No, I definitely don't know.
You
Jeff
know the
Gannon,
story,
but,
right?
Yeah, of course.
What? You never met him?
It makes sense that is him, though. I mean, just look at him.
Right.
Hey,
well, who was Jeff Gannon, right? He's a fake reporter, call boy, literally a fucking male hooker who's got press pass.
He came out of nowhere.
Right.
There is no history,
no record.
No, keep going, Jacob. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. If that's not him, who is he? So,
and where did he go?
My only question.
After he came back on the scene years later and allegedly
I've been looking for him.
Brother.
He ain't nowhere to be found, sir.
So, well, one thing is exactly what are you asking, Austin? Because as far as like the order of the trapezoid, I mean, they do come up a lot.
Oh, okay.
But as far as my opinion, as far as that goes, it's kind of like a cutout. Right. Like it's not a real organization.
Oh, I agree.
It's just kind of like a fallback organization, like a lot of these.
I feel the same way about the Temple of Set as well, right? Like, don't you feel very similar as far as I'm concerned? But the only reason that I brought it up is because not only were they connected to Johnny Gosch, but it was in the context of the finders running a lot of their operations from the Cabazon Indian Reservation. Get the fuck out of here. This is where Michael kind of
Arthur Thompson, sir, the Nazi Satanist serial killer out of that Cabazon Indian Ranch, right? Operative. He's identical. And you take the salient characteristics of his fucking Muppetry. It's Edward Edwards, dude. They're the same fucking Muppet, dude.
Dude, every fucking time I come on, I realize that I have to, obviously jump down and dive down the rabbit hole.
We got to give respect to the general of that Hand of Death cult, right? Mr. Edward Wayne Edwards. The 13 years he spent, not consecutively, in federal prison as an adult, there is a significant, I'm not making this up, a significant decline in homicides in America.
Wow.
The very same time Otis Toole and Henry Lee Lucas are selling these tales of the Hand of Death cult, Ed was getting out of prison for that arson he committed.
Hey, buddy, don't stop it. Right. So you're saying they're plausible patsies? Is that what?
Yes, sir. We start putting these things in chronologically speaking, it makes a lot more sense. You're like, well, wait a second. These fuckers all knew each other, and they'd known each other for 30 fucking years by that point.
Oh my God! Somebody just brought up the fact that Johnny Gosch's father was involved in his abduction, and they're 100% right. So basically, he had taken his son Johnny, and this is according to Noreen, the mother, who said that he took him to Offutt Air Force Base leading up to his abduction. And basically that was where they claimed Michael Aquino was running the hub of the Project Monarch, right? Of the Monarch boys were all located,
Is this the
that?
same Michael Aquino that the Franklin scandal pornographer photographer for the Kiddo operations there, Mr.
Same
Rusty
exact
Nelson,
one.
Yes,
would
sir.
report that he sat in one of them photo shoots with the kids. Michael Aquino waltzed his Muppet ass in there with a briefcase full of unmarked bearer bonds that he claimed were for the Iran Contras.
That
Correct,
is the
same guy?
one, man.
Yeah.
The very same.
Wanna
Yes.
clarify.
And
Making
it's
sure we're on the
just
same page.
it's fascinating, honestly, because after a certain point, it's impossible, to kind of imagine the idea that this isn't the same exact operational organization, and it's just a sort
For
of
sure.
it's an umbrella concept, right?
Right.
Where it's just these factions that are geographically located that provide these opportunistic kind of avenues to the individual gladio operatives. Let's say it's only because it's I think a perfect way to describe them.
That's precisely what it is, sir. That's why we see Jeffrey Epstein operating in money laundering operations from 1980s. We saw all of his friends like Leon Black operating out of what I call Idaho Contra, which involves the same exact precise people in fucking operations as Iran Contra. Who the fuck they're financing today, Lord only knows. But we see all these fucking Muppets know each other. They're all connected to that same fucking Bill Colby's Queers former Aryan Nations compound.
Yes.
Weird. But I'm saying,
Exactly.
so we see these things that repeating over time, man. And again, these are the
It's all a
operations.
death cult. It's all a death cult.
Oh,
And-
that was it. I wanted to bring up Jacob. I'm so sorry, dude. I didn't
You're
mean
good.
to interrupt you, dude. But I just I forgot what I wanted to talk about was just that what I had
I know,
mentioned on Tuesday about Adam Walsh and Jeffrey Dahmer. I just thought it was interesting, and the idea that JJ, I'm curious to see, and also Jacob, because I didn't get your feedback either on Tuesday. Was the idea that. Because my buddy Namrock, right? The meme account he's great, dude.
Namrock's great.
He's good people.
Double Namrock?
Yeah, Namrock, dude.
Like
he's good people. But he hit me up and he basically said that he was tipped off to this idea and concept that Jeffrey Dahmer was potentially involved in the abduction of Adam Walsh, and that made all the sense in the world to me. You know, the only reason I wanted to make a direct connection to that of John Wayne Gacy. And how much he clearly was this operational patsy in the concept of the Odyssey Foundation and the Delta Project in order to procure children for the network itself at large, and then obviously sacrifice them or help cover up the administration of the operation itself by burying them in his properties.
Boom.
But
absolutely, sir.
so-
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Uncle Ted, you're
Dahmer-
right, sir. Uncle Ted's always on point here with these.
Dahmer
the
was
witness
down
statement-
in Florida at the time, getting in contact with the
say.
Process Church.
That's what they
Who was
say.
Who?
So
That's what's Jeffrey Dahmer. They say
Well,
that he basically.
thank you, sir. Well, that's what I was getting at. You're in my brain, all other JJ. I appreciate you trying to out JJ me. You might have done it. I will be the judge of that later.
Jacob,
There was
stop.
a serial killer convention of a satanic variety in Miami, Florida at that time, including Edward Wayne Edwards, Otis Toole.
right.
Stop it, JJ. You gotta
The
stop.
witness
Right. Well,
reports
and this-
from
this
the
is right
event would
when the
describe a
process
blue
picks
van in
up.
which Jeffrey Dahmer had access to from the pizza delivery shop, in which he lived in the alleyway closet.
No,
of.
no. Hold on. Which pizza delivery shop are you speaking
Ah,
of?
shit! I'll have to get back to that one.
Okay,
There's
please.
a 911.
please.
There's a police report where he called. He called. Well, I don't think it was 911 yet, but he called the police and said, "Hey, I found a dead body out behind my closet I live in, behind this pizza shop that I deliver for with this
Yep.
blue van."
Oh my God, you're activating a lot of different red
By that
flags
point in
in my
time,
mind.
Sir Ed would have known Otis probably about 30 years by that point in time. And why
Mhm.
is there a serial convention in fucking town? Ed just got done with the Atlanta child killings, moseyed his way on down to Florida for some reason.
Right. Well, I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer gets kicked out of the army, gets sent back to North Carolina, and then heads just straight down to Florida for some reason. Even he himself doesn't even say ever why he went to Florida. Oh, wait, he did say
No, I got an idea.
interview. He said that he was ashamed to go back and go to his dad's because he didn't know what his dad would say. I'm not really buying
Yeah.
that. It's like if
The same
you
dad that
were
visited in
ashamed of
prison
your
every day.
dad, right? If you were ashamed of your dad, or like ashamed because of what your dad might think, like, I mean, you would have stopped doing the shit that you were doing a long fucking time ago.
Well, how about this one, sir? Perhaps his buddy Walter Mondale invited him down there to his winter home.
Right.
Who lived down there.
Right. Exactly.
I'm just saying, how the fuck? What I'm saying is, how the fuck does he even know Walter Mondale to make that call as a 17-year-old, saying, "Hey, Walt, can I get me and my classmates here in D.C. from Ohio, we just want to come get a tour of your office. Oh, cool, we'll be there shortly."
Yeah, no problem. Come right in.
Come on down, Jeff.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, gents. Well, let's bring this in for a closing. I thank you both, you gents, for joining me here tonight to get a little GCD for the very first time, but again, not the first time, obviously, being a smart ass. I thank you folks of the interwebs for joining us here. Real barn burner indeed. My brain, I can't even talk, dude. You're done blowing up my brain hole, fellas. I got too many details to consider here, but yeah, these Muppets all know each other. I guess that's my closing statement. So I'll pass it over here to Austin Wade Picard, sir. Appreciate your time again. Any closing statements or thoughts here tonight, and plugs for that matter?
I honestly feel like we should do a part 2 in the near future.
We're going to have to, sir. I think, based on the response
so
here, my brain hole and in the chat, I think we're going to have to.
Yeah, we left too much on the table as well. There's just so much that we can discuss in terms of this specific case, but also how many different avenues that tangentially connect and not necessarily,
it's all of them.
Yeah, it's seemingly very direct in many ways. And I will say
lasers, dude, for all I know.
Yeah, no shit. But also I have to say that the point that I was meaning to make as far as Dahmer coming up in that context is, as Jacob mentioned, right? He just after the military, right, in the early 80s, he gets out of the army and he's in Florida, and essentially he gets caught by all these witnesses, right, who go on the record identifying Jeffrey Dahmer specifically as the person of interest they saw driving this blue van at the mall when Adam Walsh was kidnapped. Yep. And if you remember,
we never heard of that guy.
Right, but his head was severed from his body. They didn't find it for a few days after the event took place.
I think like 30, wasn't like a month. Now.
Yeah, it was definitely quite some time.
What speaks to the terror aspect, right? That Gladio aspect, right? The kid disappears from the mall. 30 days have gone by. No one's seen. It's the smiley face killer proto concept of that. For Dakota James missing 44 days, found on a mound site in the river, Neville Island.
So
they're always mound sites.
Do you guys know what model of van it was? Because this will blow your fucking minds.
What was it?
It was the same model of van that Ted Bundy used in his very last kidnapping of a child.
Oh my God! Get out of here, dude! I gotta look at that model because we see the yellow Volkswagen of the Bundy situation popping off in Son of Sam, popping off a number of these. A lot of similarities with these vehicles too. That's an excellent point, sir.
That's amazing, man.
But when we consider the Gladio aspects of all these matters, kind of deal. I mean, it is the scare factor, right? You have someone, Dakota James missing 44 days, right? Murked, tortured. Obviously, we find out later from serial ectopathologist. The Secret Service and the Federal Bureau of Investigations appear when the mother's trying to get some actual fucking justice, right?
Exactly, man. And that's
matters of national security, right? Muppetry,
right? Dude, all I have to say is that JonBenet Ramsey, that case came up in the Atlanta child murders as well, obviously, and the context of that was basically that John Bennett Ramsey was a former U.S. Navy officer who lived in Atlanta at the time of the murders. He joined the Navy in '66 just after finishing college. He served in the Philippines for 3 years, which seems to be exactly what happened with the father of Sue Klebold, which is very interesting to me. And he won a medal from the Filipino conflict, which I thought was, again, this has to be par for the course. And so, again, I see that so this is very strange because about 2 years before the child murder started, you have essentially Ramsey continuing to live in Atlanta until 1991, when he moved to Boulder, Colorado, obviously, and meant to manage Access Graphics as the president of this operation. And
he founded it, right?
Yeah, exactly. But again, the Boulder police chief at the time, who later resigned in the midst of the JonBenet Ramsey murder investigation, happened to be Tom Colby, and that individual he was previously second in command of the Houston Police under none other than former Atlanta Public Safety Commissioner Lee Paul Brown. who during the investigation, you had all these detectives in Boulder and FBI agents criticizing the upper level leadership of the Boulder Police Department as being too friendly to the Ramsey family. And it's very, very strange that the department appears to have suppressed.
We keep saying the term strange there, gents. If I may, it seems pretty normal, though, really, in the context of the
yeah, you're totally right. I'm just
in regards to this Tom Colby character, I'll table that later for a later discussion surrounding the Salem witch trials, because Bill Colby of Bill Colby's Queers, Phoenix Program, Operation Gladio, you know that Muppet. Who was his daddy? What did he do? His third great grandfather, a Captain Colby, William Colby, I believe, out of the Massachusetts chapter. That man's grandmother. Accused witch there in the Salem witch trial.
Oh, convenient.
Yep.
It never ends, my friend.
So it doesn't. And I saw Uncle Ted make a comment earlier I didn't want to pass up, and perhaps we can table this for later John Bonet, Edward Wayne Edwards style discussions. So he mentioned Santa. So one of the best theories on this Santa character I've ever seen presented is Edward Wayne Edwards. He was a super fat dude with a white beard, white hair, looking like Santa at the time. Somebody went to Columbine, to the Ramsey residence, and did a fake call 911 with allegedly a prank phone call. Now, the day prior, that would have been Ed probing the situation to see the response time.
Wow,
that would have been the same time he saw John Bonet and told her he was Santa and coming to visit her that night. And everyone she told numerous parties, not just her parents, that Santa was coming to see her on Christmas night. Like, John Bonet, you got it wrong. So this would also explain the taser gun, the rope that was not sourced from inside the home, along with the duct tape, not sourced from inside the home,
right.
The letter, perhaps you might be thinking, well, how the fuck would they know his exact bonus? Well, as I stated before, Ed's son was an executive at Lockheed down there in Denver.
Right.
Exactly. My God, man. Modern Gladio and the strategy of tension.
Yeah, Dr. James Garfield Langley. Murked a lot of folks under that name, old Ed did. Got arrested for doing so. And strangely enough, let go almost every time. He escaped the Portland, Oregon prison after murking the Lover's Lane couple in 1960. Her father was a physicist for the Manhattan Project. Don't ask these questions, sir. It's a different topic altogether. Horse of a different color. And on top of that, well, yeah, Lover's Lane. I was about to say, there you go, sir. Yeah. Lover's Lane murder sounds like Zodiac.
The town that dreaded sundown, Zodiac.
I'll give you one of the Zodiac relative to Ed. The details that were described to Brian Hartnell, the Zodiac survivor, and September 27th, 1969 at Lake Berryessa, California. My favorite glory hole, not the same glory hole, sir. This is an engineering development in which to make lakes, man-made lakes. It's a giant hole, a vast hole in the middle of this lake. It's my favorite glory hole.
A vast hole.
Very vast.
Sounds like the same glory hole.
It's a similar. It's not quite the same operational capacities or needs. But my point being is that the man in the hooded mask, the Zodiac killer that was described to Brian Hartnell, he escaped a prison in Montana of Deer Lodge, stole a car, murdered a prison guard, escaped to Mexico. These were all elements of Edward Wayne Edwards' life in 1959, not 1969. Therefore, how would he know these things if it wasn't Ed? You know what I mean? Lo and behold, there's a lot of other things that point to Ed there, but Brian Hartnell's maternal grandfather, his mother's father, had no sons. And Brian Hartnell would have been the next paternal descendant. That man, his maternal grandfather, was the second great-grandson of a Colonel Benjamin Walker, the aide-de-camp to General von Steuben in the Society of Cincinnati out of the New York chapter, and a personal friend of George Washington.
Oh, my God.
Holy shit!
In your face, old sir. More society stuff, and I just want to say that's my closing statements. I won't keep belaboring the point. Right? You got me going, sir, on a lot of these different tangents. I do appreciate your time and these details, buddy. But I do also want to give you an opportunity to provide some closing statements here.
Yeah, no doubt, buddy. And as I mentioned privately before we started, let's in part 2 make sure that I remember to make these parallels between Nathan Johnson and that of the Omar Mateen Pulse Nightclub Network, because I see so many similarities that crop up. Yes, Whack and Hut.
Speaking of Cabazon, right?
Exactly. And that's the whole reason that I brought it up, honestly. And this will be a part of my closing statements. And I apologize, for reiterating or going over any more details. But that is an asshole. That is not a glory hole.
My favorite. You don't understand the engineering marvel, sir. This glory hole is. This is my favorite glory hole. It's an engineering marvel.
It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful.
That is a man-made lake. There's mounds at the bottom of Lake Berryessa, sir.
That's too funny. But all I have to say though is really that you have the Finders cult directly connected to the Cabazon Indian Reservation, which prior to my Danny Castellero, hunting the octopus episode, or the Inslot octopus, was
Danny
it was
Castellero?
not on my radar at the time, right? And so it's through that I kind of was given the privilege to witness the details, right? That would very much condemn this kind of operational outlook upon this broad spectrum of modern Gladio and how it's implemented upon us. And I will say that they claimed that human trafficking was very much being conducted and facilitated at Cabazon during that time. And so you have human trafficking being completely just, extraordinarily kind of just ignored at that point. And also you have Michael Riconosciuto making a statement, by the way, to Ted Gunderson, of all people.
I've gone over them statements. It's an interesting study.
It is. I'm talking like if you could imagine every single, let's just say a plethora of just extraordinary details that would cause you to desperately just descend down these very dystopian rabbit holes, and maybe in some sort of effort that is potentially, going to inevitably result in a nonsensical, a non sequitur in a way, which I almost believe that they want to misdirect us through that prism in a certain sense. But I will say that
Michael Riconosciuto serves one of the most important characters in American parapolitical history.
100%
correct.
And on top of that, sir, this Castellero fellow you speak of, is this James Jesus Angleton's neighbor?
That's the one, man.
His father, Castellero's father, was a major figure in the Iran-Contra scandal himself, and I do believe Danny was investigating old dad. What does Danny's dad do? Who was his daddy? What he did? Well, Danny was trying to figure that out.
Exactly, man. He caught a glimpse.
Manufactured those night vision goggles. He was the president of a biotech company.
You mean Danny?
Lived next
Danny,
to James Angleton. He might have out JJ both
family.
of us.
You mean Danny's family, who has the Scientology connections?
Yes. Oh, you mean Danny's sister who overdosed on drugs in the Haight and Ashbury, the same place Michael Riconosciuto was hanging out with the Process and Charles Manson and the Grateful Dead and the CIA and MI6 and the fucking Process.
West.
You name the Muppets, sir. You name them.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Oh, that's another point. We never discussed the Star Chamber. We could honestly spend almost an entire episode on the Star Chamber and the White Eagle Underground. So I'm telling you, let's go ahead and schedule a part 2 as soon as
do that, sir. Let's do some plugs for both of you gents, and we'll call her in here.
Awesome, buddy. All right, and don't let me forget, because there were certain details on Cabazon as well, as far as the Order of the Trapezoid and the Temple of Set, that I think actually do factor into to Columbine.
If it comes to Aquino, sir, I will remind you of not only that, but I will also remind you of the most glorious glory hole in America.
Hell yeah, buddy. All right. Well, on that note, nothing but love for everyone here, and both of you. Obviously, you guys should know by now that I appreciate you guys more than I think you're aware of, and anyone that I've really made just kind of formed a significant relationship with over the course of this process. Like, you hold a special place in my heart, man, and I'll never kind of take you for granted. So I appreciate you both. I learned so very much anytime we have the opportunity to have a conversation, and again, it's just mainly due to the unique kind of perspective that we all seem to possess, and I love your minds, and I appreciate you both. So nothing but love to all of you. If you can and have the means to support me, and anything I've ever done has resonated with you, the Underclass Podcast. Or it's patreon.com/the Underclass Podcast. And that's definitely the best place to support me. There's at least some sort of incentive there. You can get the, whatever this is, the paywalled show that I do. And beyond that, again, I appreciate you all, and thank you for the opportunity, man.
Yes, sir. I reciprocate the same sentiments, sir. And you're always welcome here on Operation GCD. I appreciate your time, conversation, and for blowing up my brain hole, sir. You're a man with a lot of details, and I do respect that. I also respect this man with a lot of details. I also respect the fact he attempts to out JJ me, but I will not have to.
See, I think it's just a East Coast, West Coast JJ. I think.
Oh, we got East Coast, West Coast beef. I like it.
Yeah.
We're doing some old school 90s
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's just what it is, you know. But
I like it. I'm gonna make some AI art about it. So please continue.
Hell yeah.
Muppet,
Anybody that wants to check out what I've got going on, I just dropped a great episode with William Ramsey about the West Memphis 3.
Nice.
And I will be getting more into that because YouTube pissed me off by slapping a Satanic Panic sticker on me.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna bring it up earlier, dude.
Yeah.
I wanted to commend you. I'm very proud. You know, just by association.
Right. So yeah, I will be diving more into that case because I think it's absolutely ridiculous that anyone would think that these people are innocent of anything, and to think that Satanism is not involved in that case is also the most retarded thing I think I've ever heard. So I will be diving into that a lot more, along with a lot of other Satanic Panic stuff. We'll get JJ on, we'll get Austin on to talk about this stuff because I just think it's so important. It's like JJ, you said at the beginning, is we've been in a Satanic Panic for 45 years.
Dude, I'm 45 years old, sir. I'm super panicked.
Right. Me too. So be on the lookout for that. You can find me on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, YouTube, all the places, all the podcatchers. You can find me. X, Instagram, Telegram are the best places. Pretty much anywhere. Rise to Liberty, risetoliberty.store for all my cool mind control merch, and you can also check me and Austin out on Already Dead every Tuesday.
Did you mention your Substack, sir, or did I miss that? Was I stuck in Muppet?
Beware the Mockingbird on Substack, which is where I do all of my writing. So check that out.
Such a good name, buddy.
Thank you.
Oh, dude, I've been enjoying it, sir, for sure. I appreciate your time, sir, and again, all your details, and I appreciate both you gents joining me here tonight to get a little GCD.
Yeah,
anytime. Look forward to reconvening on these matters.
Yes.
Definitely.
Part 2 is needed.
Part 2. They'd say there, I think somewhere in French, maybe. No, I think again, we live under propagandized times here in Muppet World. We're trying to piece together a lot of things. I think we've gotten a lot closer to these matters here this evening, gents, and I appreciate your time on that. The only thing I can say is I am very panicked. I look forward to your Satanic Panic. We'll set aside the East Coast, West Coast JJ for a moment, and we'll mash together some more Satanic Panic ideas because, I'm feeling pretty panicked.
Perfectly calm, dude.
Yeah, waving the fucking gun around?
Calmer than you are. Perfectly calm, dude.
Yeah, waving the fucking gun around?
Calmer than you are.
Apparently I had it on loop. Calmer than you are. I was feeling pretty panicked, but I had to calm down a little bit.
I gotta say that I was I don't know, I was in a very strange state of mind whenever I
panicked.
I kind of cultivated the introduction and the outro to that of my Columbine episode, only because I work I don't know, I try and find myself in a moment where it applies most and I'm not wasting time, right? But I think that I always try and find some sort of reinforcing a credible quote or detail that might sort of help suggest the overall kind of mentality that's being employed, and I think this is the formidable threat that we all face. And so I just do my best to try and come up with some sort of example that would help represent that in the best way possible. And so I only wanted to mention, the ending of my introduction and the outro and sort of the closing as well as of my episode. I quote Shakespeare often, and that's probably due to my kind of, let's say,
cultured nature. I didn't know they loved Shakespeare there in Arkansas.
More the thespian kind of background that I unfortunately come from in a certain sense, just because I appreciate the art of film and filmmaking and how you can kind of utilize that
storytelling, if you will.
Yes, for pop culture references, if not to help kind of introduce concepts to the general public, I think is very important. And I've always appreciated, windows into also the conspiratorial framework of Hollywood. That's another very interesting aspect of film itself. But But I will say, and also, who the fuck is Shakespeare? It's like there's so many different examples of
legitimate question.
Yeah,
Right.
seemingly accumulations or what is it called? Compilations of kind of individuals that have been constructed that serve a certain purpose. And I think
Right.
that Shakespeare might be one of those everlasting exampple,s right? That
And a
seem to-
psyop, right? 67th
yes,
century psyop.
yes, that stand the test of the historical record and organized framework of history in a way. But I will say that I only wanted to mention this quote because I found it to resonate with me personally, internally, and I hope to share it with you guys. And if you appreciate it, whatever the case,
Please do.
I just thought that understanding what King Richard III as a story, as a tale, as a plot line, as a concept really helped introduce to again, kind of like the ancient public in a way, right? Because this is a long-standing structured concept, and that was this Machiavellian rise and fall of King Richard III of England, right? And I thought it was so very interesting, the quote that comes from that Shakespearean monologue in a way, right? Where basically he says that essentially King Richard claims, and this is in his kind of totalitarian dystopian mindset. He says, "And thus I clothe my naked villainy with odd old ends stolen out of holy writ, and seem a saint when most I play the devil." And I just think that in itself applies more than anything in terms to the
100%.
social engineers and all of these mind manipulators that strategically blur the lines at every level of society and have members of the general public who have the purest of intention fall into these traps, these preordained outcomes, and support things that are genocidal and just extraordinarily evil, and ethically speaking, and view it as something that's spiritually inclined and almost basically ordained by God as some sort of manufactured. In many ways, it feels like a manufactured self-prophecy, right? And
Right.
I just have to say, no matter where you land, as far as just like religiously speaking or politically speaking, or wherever you land ideologically within the framework of these preordained outcomes and these structured or organized avenues of thought that have been set up for you to legitimately miss the boat and lose the point. Take a moment, reflect for a brief time, and remember what you don't know. Because every second of my life, I remember and I recall and I reflect on how much I am unaware of. And that's what these conversations are so, man, it gives me hope.
No, you're spot on, dude. I mean, you're blowing up my brain hole, sir. And I like to quote the infamous John Keel in that kind of same regard. I'm a man of brevity here at Operation GCD, of course, AWP, other JJ, OJJ, man of brevity. I'm not an expert in anything. That's what John Keel would say. I'm not an expert in anything.
Right.
Knowing that you're not an expert in anything, I think is kind of what you're saying, and understanding these concepts is very important. And man, you're blowing up my brain hole, sir. That's some great commentary and an excellent quote to end tonight's show. I didn't mean to interrupt you. If you got anything else there, I was just
no, you're good. I've talked enough, honestly. I appreciate you both. I love you guys for sure.
Yes, sir.
You're my brothers. Like I honestly want you to know that. Like you're my friends for sure, and legitimately my brothers in my mind. And so just
I reciprocate the same sentiment, sir. And I'm not gonna lie to you. Real barn burner here, indeed. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Hell yes.
Make sure both of your gents links are in the show notes. And the only statement I have is it's more of a message of safety. Statement of safety.
There's thousands of Americans out there. By the way, I've been shot with a laser beam twice.
Stay vigilant, folks. Sadly, they got Ted. They got Ted twice. So, catch you folks next.
Well, that's it. That's the show here, folks. So the next time you're out on the town, visiting your local watering holes, or perhaps just meandering around, and you hear the unmistakable sounds of metal clanking, and you spot signs of a disturbance, but check your six. Look in that garbage can, 'cause you never can tell. The GCDs may be loose in your town.